Oh, there's me talking on mute as well. It's all going so well so far.
It never fails. There's always somebody that starts out on mute.
There's always something. There's always something.
Not always starts out. Sometimes later in the call, when like you're stepping away for a second, and then you put it on mute, and then you forget. You come back and you start talking in the middle of a meeting, and everybody's going, "What is he saying?" I know.
Right.
It's horrible.
Right.
Hi.
How you doing, Randall? Lovely weekend.
It's my morning. Good morning. After a karaoke night once again. This is just like hump day for me.
I seem to get you on those nights, don't I?
Yeah, I think it would be hard not to. The odds are against you. You know, the odds are not in your favor. I need to still finish setting up here a second because I literally just got out of bed.
Well, no worries. I'm going to jump straight in.
Moments ago, I may go off screen after a minute or two here and go handle the rest of my quick morning stuff.
No worries.
But at least we can get started and start talking about what you're doing. And I guess I'm the question magician again for.
Sure, you can jump straight in.
Yeah, and all that. Cool.
All right, so I'm going to dive straight into this, and we're going to share the screen, and we're just going to get going.
Yeah. And hello, everybody out there in TV land. Yeah. So
for those that don't know, we started, the registration is closed now. Sorry, but we've been doing a Flutter DevCamp across this month, and we've on the 4th session today. This just happened earlier. And that was with our good friend Thomas Burkhart, who was talking about Get It, Watch It, and RX Command.
Oh, clever stuff. Sorry
really
that happened in the middle of my night. I would have wanted to see.
It happens though, time zones.
Yeah, cool.
Anyway, so yeah, we've been working on that, and that went really well. And alongside the Dev Camp, I've been building a e-commerce shopping app as a test app to show it all, show the whole thing off, and kind of give the people of the Dev Camp a basis on which to try different state management solutions, because that's what the Dev Camp's about. All right, so, and I kind of like the idea that at the end of this month, once the Dev Camp's finished, we can say, look, here's an open source app that people can look at, and it's built with Flutter, and it's a good starting point for a lot of people to understand. I think we need more modern 1.3 and all that jazz.
Definitely, right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people always seem to be clamoring for, like, give me something that's bigger than just the 3 lines that
right,
yeah. This is great that you're doing this together.
Yeah. So hopefully, and I'd like to so we're recording a bunch of stuff in all these videos, and maybe we can do some. Go back over them, maybe make some scripts up for some small bits of information, maybe do some shorts, or I don't know. Maybe there's some content here that we can better express than just live streams, because rewatchability on live streams is not very high, mainly because obviously it's a long live stream and no one has time to go watch something multiple times over. All right, so let's dive straight in. All right, I'm going to reorder this, hopefully, and let's get rid of those headings. Bear with. Bosh. Oh, there we go. All right. So see if I can organize this nicely on the screen here so we can maximize our screen real estate. Okay. So first of all, here are the designs. These were purchase designs. I don't remember the exact designer. It was on one of the myriad of design sites, and it's like here's our shopping app, and we thought that this is a great, half the problem of doing an app is this bit, which is the design. So obviously you've got splash screen, welcome screen, login, verify. We've got some pop-ups for like promotional pieces. Then we have our main screen, and that can scroll down, and then you've got a bunch of different feature sets there. And then we've got a bottom navigation bar. Once you tap on a product, we have the product details page. This is that. And following that, we have, if you tap on a rating, we have the rating review page. At the bottom, we have the icons. Along the bottom here are home, categories, cart, wish list, and account. And if you're on the wish list page, you see your wish list. Finally, you've got cart, which is, as you add the items, you go into your cart, you check out. You can set your delivery, make payment, and all that jazz. Well, obviously, it's not full set designs, because obviously we probably want some confirmation screen saying thank you for making your payment, where your product's on its way. And then we've got your account page, what it might look like, with a way of accessing your previous orders. And then the categories page sort of lets you sort of drill down into specific categories and contents that you might want to be purchasing. All right, so that's kind of like a quick overview. Those that are new here, and we've been building this, and let me show you the current app as it sits now. Yeah, that'll do. So we've got the heading bar. We've got there's quite a few placeholder buttons that don't do anything. We have this sort of categories bar and promotions, top selling. You can tap on a product and see the product details. These all kind of expand. We don't have any data for these right now, but you can imagine how this could work.
We've got a question.
Go for
There seems to be a bug with sliver expansion tile host with the initial expanded. Couldn't figure it out.
All right, we'll take a look at that. Someone also submitted PR for something else we should probably look at as well. All contributions welcome. Actually, talking about the contributions, I will grab grab a link to the repo, and you can all download it and to your heart's content and do whatever you want to do. Clone it, fork it, all that jazz. Let me pop this up in the chat.
It's always been my heart's content to download a repo. So thank you.
So that's it there, github.com/slightfoot/wow_shopping. That's where you can find that. Yeah, so back to this briefly. So we've got a little heart in the top corner, which lets you add to wish list, and that state is maintained. So you can see here, if I went to the product, unwish list, and go back, it's gone from here as well. So that's really nice. And then when you add something to your wish list, it pops up on your wish list page, and you can select them and remove them, or select all, unselect all, buy now, that kind of thing. We don't have any empty state here. We have no account screen. We have no cart screen. But we do have a category screen, and a lot of that was to do with how to do like this expanding sliver list. That does actually animate very quickly on the screen, but it does actually fade away nicely and everything. And then we've got the home screen. So it's not bad, but it's still not near the complete designs. So I think we want to pick and choose some things. I kind of want to. There's probably. So first of all the data right now is mock data that we're shipping in assets, and we were thinking about how can we make this more realistic way of building an app, because you wouldn't access the assets directly because you don't ship all your product pictures and information in your app like that. So one of the DevCamp attendees, Bettina or Bets, I think she's here on the chat somewhere. She mentioned an API, fake store API. So I've taken a look at this. It's not a bad idea. It's definitely not a bad idea. And you can kind of make simple, like I want this one product, and then you get back some basic product information, and you've got like a cart, users. I got this login thing. I'm not convinced by it at the moment. It seems like from what I read of the docs, like you can call like create user or something, add user, I think it was. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't do anything, right? Like it just says, yes, okay. But then it doesn't actually, there's no database, right? So I feel like it's probably nicer to actually have like a deployed version of like an API that you can actually use if you're going to do an API. Use an API. Also, I did actually take a look at it, and this is it running in. This is me making the query in Postman here, and they have 20 products in the database. That's all the products. So although it sounds like nice to use the API, we wouldn't actually get anything from the API. If they had hundreds of products in lots of different categories, that's what I want, right? Because then we can start like really filtering down and adding categories. But looking at this, I'm like, well, over and above what we have right now, it doesn't really get us any further in terms of producing the final app side of things. So I think we'll not add fake store API this time around. I think that we'd be better off maybe making our own Dart API. And that actually would be a great addition to the app, because I think that a lot of people want to know how to do that, right? Like do the backend in Dart as well as the app in Flutter and Dart. So
that'd be using something like Dart Frog or something.
Possibly. I mean, I haven't really looked at it.
Yeah.
I found this actually this morning, and I wanted to share it because it came over new to me. And there's a website called roadmap.sh, which has developer roadmaps, which I thought was a brilliant idea. So, you want to you understand blockchain. Okay, here's blockchain, and it tells you there's your starting point. And when you click on one, it takes you to more resources around those different pieces. And it gives you a learning guide, essentially, to all the different things to do with blockchain.
Roadmap.sh, you said?
Right, I'll put this in the chat. There you go. Right. And it's roadmap.sh is the website. And they've actually got ones here for like QA, DBA, and they got Flutter. And I looked at this, and obviously I'll bring this up for everyone. having looked at Flutter, obviously I haven't done Flutter for a long time. Actually, go through. They've covered like wonderful things here, like learn the basics of Dart, variables, built-in types, functions, operator control flow, setting up a development environment, Flutter CLI, widgets, all the different base widget types. Then what IDEs you can use, Flutter version manager, working with assets, different assets, version control systems, repo hosting, GitHub. Like, it's not just like, here's Flutter. This is like a huge, like, here's a complete roadmap if you want to become a Flutter developer, and all the things that also on the, learning Git and GitHub. You don't think of that being Flutter. It's more development, right? But it's included in this roadmap, which I thought was really nice. And we've been talking in the DevCamp about a lot of this stuff. There's things like dependency injection, design patterns, solid principles, OOP. And then obviously, where is it down here? I mean, you could just go on that. There's this huge list here, lambdas, isolates, everything. And there's your river pod, block, provider, state management. So, that's a really great, it goes through all CI testing and everything else, and finally ended up with deployment and analytics. And then keep learning and onward stuff to like learning backend, for example, and everything else. So, yeah, I think there's like huge benefits to this. And then, I just wanted to share that because I thought it was brilliant. Anyway, right, I'll shut up about that. Let me put that to one side. Right. Wait Dart for the backend as well. Awesome. Yes, sub. Yeah.
Cool.
So there's no reason why you can't do Dart in the backend. So I think we need to pick. Okay, so how are we going to go from where we're going to go? Okay, we've spent enough time chinwagging. What can we produce? So I'd like to see all of the main sections have some content in for sure. So I think let's fix the 2 bugs that are outstanding. I think get content in these 2 screens. I really want to do that. So we use this content as like placeholder content for now, but I really would like to get some content in. But all I could do is put this content in, which are just the main category headings, and this subcategory of men's fashion, which I don't think is enough. And so without like maybe spend some time offline just gathering bunches of images and data and making fake products. So actually, maybe Randall, if you want to like take up the baton with some AI stuff, that might be a spot on thing to do. But
I was just thinking that you could give it a template for how you want the JSON to look for a particular object. Just say, give me 50 things like this, and I'm sure it would come up with.
It did. I mean, when you did it before, it did come up with some stuff, but it did get cut short. But then also image URLs, like it's great, but you need it to. I don't know how you get to pick some images or use something to generate some images. I don't know. So right now, anyway, the point here is I don't think it's worth spending time. We have the fundamentals here. You tap on something on the screen. It's not. The difficult bit here was getting the expanding stuff working. I think let's concentrate on. Okay, let's. I can't do a poll in here, but I think we've got 2 main areas: shopping cart or account. If we do shopping cart first, then the result of the result of making the checkout process can add an order that you can then see in your account. So maybe the order is shopping cart then account. Yeah. All right. Let's that out. Should support async build. Flutter should support async build. I don't know what you mean by that.
What does that mean? Yeah. I think it's that everybody thinks that build needs to be async, for a widget because they have async things happening. And it's like, no, there is a protocol and there's a reason it has to be synchronous.
Oh, you mean when you mean that's what app build. No, you mean like widget build. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's where that's going.
It does.
Because I see that question before. Well, I mean, it supports it in the sense that you can set up things in an init state.
No, but what I'm trying to say is you can literally make a widget that does that. The format of Future Builder doesn't really have have to be matched, right? So you can put whatever you want in the your own widget and make your own sort of asynchronous build.
Yeah. So that's the solution, is to do what we already have, which is that we have widgets like Future Builder that do take an async and give you. But the problem always is, in build, you need to return a widget, and you need to do it within a 60th of a second. So you can't wait for anything. It has to have something to deliver, and that's what Future Builder does. It creates a situation where if the feature isn't complete yet, here's the alternative for now, and then we're going to get the real thing when it actually comes up. That's the only way you can deal with async in asynchronous situation.
And it'd be the same for all frameworks. Yeah. I'm not sure how it's handled in other frameworks, but they would just put nothing there then. They return a blank widget. I mean, right. So what we do in this app, if you go look at the source code, what we're doing is we're actually doing what you probably want to be doing anyway, which is preloading whatever you need for the screen before you get to the screen, so you don't have any loading.
Right.
That's really what you want to be, so that you've got a really nice, smooth experience. All right. Anyway, let's move on, because we'll be here forever otherwise. So, okay. So let's go look at those bugs. So, what was that bug that was mentioned? It's
expansion tile something. Scroll.
Okay, so one was same sub. It was sub as well. Yeah. You mentioned this is what we found in the show. I don't want to fix it this way though, but this was so we've got some unnecessary wrapping. So you've got 80 columns and we have 100 columns in the app. You still can't set that in PubSpec, which I'm kind of, or analysis options even. Anyway, so this was setting size box with a double infinity width, which works, but the height is the problem here. So setting the height will actually change the content height. Now in this situation, it's not too bad because we've got one single text, and one single text widget inside would just end up clipping by default when it goes out of bounds. So not too bad. But if you change the height of a widget, so I make that bigger. If you do change the height of a widget, then what you're actually doing is you're saying layout to this height, where height factor is saying layout to its natural height, but then collapse its height down to this height. So what's the best way of explaining this? Height factor on a line does not change the child's requested constraints. It only changes the resulting height that's sent to the parent. So it still lays out to the height it needs to be. However, the height reported to the parent can be a different height, and then you can clip it and center it and align it however you want. So on the right-hand side, size box will literally change the height and then report that as the constraints going down. So they are different. It's interesting though. I don't know if there's another widget that we can use that would do something similar to height factor. There should be no reason why width factor shouldn't also work here. I mean, a double box infinity going inside.
Does intrinsic height help?
Should also do it. Let's have a look. So this was the connectivity monitoring that we added. So let's add, let's turn on airplane mode. There it is at the bottom there. Here's our connection monitor. So,
and for anybody asking questions, it's not about what Simon's doing right now. I'm starring those for answering when we got a lull. So just hang on.
Perfect. If it's about what we're doing now, perfect. We'll jump on it straight away. Right. So I think we've actually played around with this before, but let's do width. I don't think width factor makes that much difference in this because it's the child width is always the constrained width there. So self-constrained width. So size box dot no, not dot expand. I really don't like using double dot infinity. So basically what we're doing here is where it works, and basically what this is doing is saying be as big as you can be in the width. We don't need the width factor, and basically it's because the align widget is constrained, is being unconstrained. Essentially, letting the child be unconstrained in both directions when we want it to be constrained in one axis and not the other. I don't think unconstrained box lets you specify like some sort of height factor. It does let you specify alignment and constrained axis. I feel like we want something that's kind of like halfway between the two. Constraint transform box. Constraint transform. Ooh. Oh no, I saw this. Yeah. Yeah, and again though, like this, although it lets you do this kind of thing, it still doesn't say okay. The trick with the height factor is what we actually want to do. Another way of dealing with this, and this is also a kind of example here of when the built-in widgets fail to meet your requirements. Like what we're doing at the moment, and what Flutter lets you do is to combine widgets together to achieve a compositive result. So I'm composing behavior of multiple widgets together to achieve a final behavior that is what I want. Whereas if I was to make a custom widget, I don't have to use any of these widgets, right? So we could explore that briefly if people are interested in how to kind of solve this with a custom widget. If not, if I don't hear any complaints, I'm going to jump on that actually, because I feel like that's kind of an interesting topic for people. I think
this one's sort of relative.
Is it allowed to contribute to the WoW shopping? Yeah, I mean, like, fork the repo and do what you want. It's a community project, right? Like, it's not just me. That's why we're looking at the PRs here, right? All right, well, yeah, definitely, and everything else. All right, so we are going to completely delete this entire tree and replace it with one widget. One widget that does everything that we need to do. How's that? All right, so let's think about what we're actually trying to achieve here. And then each widget, we're going to put the behavior, combine that behavior into the final widget. And that way we can step by step kind of go through and then replicate the behavior. So first of all, the stack is it positions its child and then the positioned on top of that, right? Then that positioned on top is being pushed down to the bottom, left and right of 0. So it's meant to push it out to the bottom. Then we have an animate size so that when it animates, it can open and close, right? So like to hide and show it on the screen. So if I turn off our airplane mode and we can get back to it quick enough, you should see it kind of, when it connects, it'll go off the screen. There you go, like that. And obviously, I wonder if there's like, hang on, let me just try something here. Hang on.
There's a relevant question here, actually, related to this about airplane mode and stuff. I think gestures should be disabled when there's no internet available, but how to enable that?
You can do that. That's just the same. Okay, so I think gestures should be disabled when there's no. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't think it should. I mean, what gestures where? Like, why can't I scroll and use the app if I've got the data, right? But if you wanted to do that, you could just wrap the entire top level of your widget tree in an ignore pointer or absorb pointer, sorry, widget. Right. And you just say absorbing true, and it will absorb all the pointer events and not go to anything further down the stack. So that's how you do that. But normally you'd probably want to use a stack and then do a shade and say not connected or something if you wanted to deny someone using your app if you're not online. But that is a very terrible behavior, and I'll tell you why. Because connectivity will go on and off, on and off, on and off, things like that. And what you don't want to do is having a blinking dark screen going on and off. I'm trying to use the app and I can't use the app. It would be terrible. So connectivity is not something that you can control. So, just be aware. Oh, Steph's here. Hey, Steph. I just found what I was looking for, which was a command. See if I can bring this over. Apparently, I can't drag out command tab. Let's try a new window. Where am I? Apparently, there's a command to enable Oh, look at that. Cool. We can enable and disable airplane mode to watch the animation. That's going to be helpful in debugging this. I'll pop that over on the other screen. All right, so that's your first thing. And then we animate with the curve, and we animate alignment top center, so it kind of lifts up and doesn't like reveal. Like there's different things you can do with alignment. And this bit is the clever bit. So this bit, the reason why we're using the align with the height factor is to make sure that the animate size animates correctly based on the height. Now we can actually override that and do whatever we want with the custom layout, so not even a problem there. Size box we wouldn't need because we can make our own constraints. And then if we wanted to, we could have the widget that we actually show be whatever we want. So we could actually give it the material and everything, so that all can stay the same. So so let's do that. All right, so first of all, we want let's make a stateful widget, and we'll call it connectivity host, banner host, right? And then inside our connectivity banner host, we're going to want a multi-child layout, custom multi-child layout. And the way this works is the delegate that you pass is the thing that does all the layout and control. We pass in children, which are the widgets that we want to use and display. And each of the children must be wrapped in a layout ID. And this is how your delegate identifies the widget, right? So that we can control it. So we're going to have two widgets. One is like above. We want one for the content that was given to us. That's the rest of the app. And then we want the other one to be the banner, right? So let's put that in here. So we want bring this up. We want a final widget banner, final widget child. And then let's pass that in. Can't do that because I've got errors. Well, we'll do it manually. And then our delegate, well, we need a delegate, so let's do a delegate. So I can go look up the class. So we go click on that, and it tells me that the delegate type is a multi-child layout delegate. This is all documented. I'm just fast tracking that. So you go look up the API docs if you're doing this yourself, understand what's going on. So we want a class called connectivity banner delegate, banner host delegate, sure, extends our multi-child layout delegate. And then we get two functions, should be relayout and perform layout. So we need to think about this a little bit. So we want to do animation, which is going to affect our should layout. For the minute, the idea of should relayout is to basically optimize, right? So it basically tells it should it bother relaying out if the data's changed or not. So for the moment, we're going to say true because we're debugging, but we should fix that and not do that. This covariant means that you should be putting in your type into the parameter because your type is a covariant of the original delegate type. And that way in your function, you can check old delegate parameters versus new delegate parameters. The perform size is where we actually do all our work. And the delegate has a couple of functions that we can call to do that work. So we go into delegate. You'll see in here we've got has child, layout child, and position child. And that's about it. That's all we really need. So we get given the size of what we're like. That's the size of our layout that we're trying to size to. So first of all, let's wrap our widgets here. So we want the child on the bottom. Now, the order in which widgets are in your tree is the paint order. So you can go look up, oh God, what's it called? The painter's algorithm. Hang on, I'm going to find it now. Yeah, painter's algorithm was right. So I'll pop this in the chat, but basically it's how ordering of drawing is done on a computer, basically. So I'll pop that in the chat if anyone wants to go refer to that. Anyway, so the point here is this: the first one in your layout is drawn first, and then the one after that is drawn on top, and the one after that is drawn on top. And this way, so we know that we want the rest of the app below our, below the pop-up bar. So that's where widget.child is, because that's where we're going to represent the rest of the app. Sorry, not there. And then on top of that, we want the banner. Now we need to give these IDs so that we can control it. Now the easiest way to deal with this is to make an enum, because that's like a nice, simple way. So connectivity, banner, host, widget, ID. That's getting a bit of a mouthful, but it's precise. All right, so we have two widgets. We have child and banner. I don't think we need much else. And we'll use those two IDs, child. And this is just any object. The idea is that you use this object as a key. So it has to have a quality, or you can put a value in there. It's a model object even, but as long as it has a quality and hash code, it will do the comparison correctly. Enum's just nice and simple. And then our delegate, we want to construct that. And do we want to pass anything in? We probably want a minute. I'll leave that blank. So that's your basic sort of boilerplate structure for doing a custom layout with our two widgets. Okay, so inside our layout function, we want to decide how we want to lay it out. So we're going to say layout child, and then what's the ID? So this is going to be our child widget first. And now we could do this in any order. It doesn't have to be the painting order. So we could lay out the banner first and then lay out the child. It wouldn't make any difference. The nice thing is it means that you can, the whole point of doing custom layout like this is you can do those custom constraints like go, oh, this widget is going to be this size based on this other widget size. And you can make those things. This is the correct place to make those choices. If you need to go, truthfully, if you need to go get the size of a widget using a context and render object, then you're probably not doing it right. What you want to be doing as a custom layer, you want to be basically taking your code to lay out widgets from the build layer to the layout level, because that's what you're doing. You're doing layout. Anyway, back to this before I go too far here. Right, widget ID, got that wrong. Right, constraints. So now this is the constraints that we want to pass to the child. I believe we get the parent constraints. I think it's only the size though. So let's just quickly check that. I'm thinking maybe you might be getting confused with single child layout, which gives you a constraints. Okay, so get size of the parent constraints.biggest is the default. You can override that. All right, fine. So we do box constraints. This is us supplying the constraints to our children. Remember, layout. There is a layout article. I mention it all the time. See if I can understand constraints. That was the first find. That is great. I'll pop this in the chat. So this is what you want to remember. Constraints go down, sizes go up, parent sets position. Okay. So we're sending the parents down to our children. We get back the size from the child and we set the position of our child. Make sense? So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to send down the constraint. And the constraint for our, we're going to have type constraints for the parent size. Nice and simple. So that means the child is going to be given the same constraints at type constraints. That means the minimum and maximum are the same to fill our window. It's the same as like sizebox.expand. And then what we're going to get back is the size. So we can actually do something with this. This would be like child size, right? If we wanted to, we can now make this widget relate to that. We don't need to do that. So, okay, layout child, and we want to position that child. Again, doesn't matter on the order. We could do layout and position, all layouts first, all layout position second. It doesn't matter whatsoever, as long as all widgets that are on the screen get laid out. That's a must. You'll get an error otherwise, and it tells you that. And then the offset, we want to position it relative to our parent is in the top left 0, 0. So that's all we need to do. 2 lines, layout to lay out the child to fill and position it at the top left. So what's next? So we want to lay out our banner. Now, so we need our connectivity. Why? You're not suggesting. Right. Connectivity ID, banner. And now we want to put the banner at the bottom and have it fill the width and be unconstrained on its height. So box constraints dot type for. There's only type for one thing. It's going to be type for the width. And that's going to be size dot width. Right? So match the parent width. That's that one laid out. And then what we have is the position. Now the position is always top left. So we're going to need the banner size. So let's grab the banner size. Put this on multiple lines. All right. And then we want to set the position of the banner. And that banner position needs to be at the very bottom. So we want to say size. So first of all, the X is going to be 0, always 0. The Y is going to be the height of our parent that's been given to us, minus the banner size height. That's it. Now that's positioned at the bottom because it's gone up from the bottom, right? So that's where it is. So this is not animated, but this is just positioning it. So now we've done this. What we should now be able to do is put this in our layout and use it. So let's comment out this stack. So we've got it for reference. And then return our custom host widget, our banner, which is going to be our material. Our material banner. And then our child is going to be widget.child that we were given, right? The rest of the app. All right, I'll just thank you very much. I'll check that. So look, I probably copy and pasted. Banner. Yeah, child, correct. Yeah, thanks. All right, so that's doing the child, then we do the banner. Yeah, all right, cool. That needs a bit of that. All right. Yeah. All right, so let's restart. And there's our banner positioned correctly as to our layout. So that's brilliant. So win there. Now what? So we want, so that's achieved what a stack and a position does in like, okay, there's a bit of boilerplate in terms of setting of the widgets, but really the layout is just 4 lines, right? 4 commands, whatever. So now what we want to do is do our animated height factor business here, right? So let's do that. So we need a way of doing our animation. So we want a with single ticket provider state mixin. This basically is a mixin that gives us it mixes in a ticker provider. That lets us get a ticker. So in here, if we at any point, you can do create ticker, if I remember rightly. Yeah. And you it gives you a function, and basically what this is it creates what's called a ticker, and this will go every frame. So this is how you get callback when any frame of graphics is rendered, and that's how you can do animation. Well, we don't care about that specifically, but you implement this when you want to use a animation controller. So we have a late final animation controller. This is how we control our animation, funny enough. That's, yeah, you get it, right? And when you create your animation controller, it will ask for this required parameter, vsync. That's vertical sync for those of the old school TVs and all that rest of it. And that's basically how many times a frame is pushed out by your computer every second. So vsync is going to be 60 frames a second on most times, or 90 if you're high refresh, 120, 240, whatever. And again, that's where this ticker provider comes in, because it uses this create ticker function to get that. All right, so coming back. In here, we put this, because now we're providing it. Very key, this single one only provides one. If you want multiple ones, you can just remove the single and you've got one that does manage multiple tickers. Single's a little bit more optimal when you only need one. Okay, so animation. upper bound, lower bound, 0, 1. This is all standard stuff, and we can leave it all the same. What we do want to do is put duration in. So we want to match the previous duration. I might actually make this temporarily longer so we can see it on the stream in case there's a frame lag or drop or whatever. So we'll do ×3, 900 milliseconds, about a second. So nice and slow so we can see it work. And we want to dispose of that controller when our widget gets disposed, nice and simple. All right, so now we've got an animation controller. We need to pass that over to our host delegate so that it can monitor the layout, monitor the controller, and if it changes, it can animate. And it can also query the size. Now, we talked about having a curve. A curve is, maybe I can bring up the API docs here. I think the API docs has a really nice diagram of all the different curves. It even has videos now. So this shows you the curve. So basically, over time, from 0 to 1, it will output a value of 0 to 1, and it'll be this. It basically paints this curve, and it means that you can have a bounce, decrease, ease in, ease out, blah blah blah. So there's all your different shapes. Now, if you combine these, you can have things like having fade in happen at the. You can see here, if you did it on ease in circ, you're going to get it come in and animate, and let's say fade in, and it's going to speed up. It'll feel like it speeds up at the end because it gets more opaque or more transparent near the end. And then if you combine that with maybe a movement of easing quad, it would move before it fades out. You see? So you can do some nice things there with all of the combinations of these. Anyway, what we care about is, I wonder if fast out, slow in is on here. So slow middle, fast out, slow in, there you go. So it basically moves out and then feels like it slows down. So it's kind of a generally nice animation to go with. So the general easings, so ease in, out, ease in, ease out. They're just like the basic ones. So there's your ease in, ease out, which is kind of your standard. It doesn't. The nice thing about everything you want a linear animation, you probably want ease in, out, because linear is very feels very rigid. Where as soon as you ease in out, it still has a linear curve to it. It still has that very linear curve, but it's just enough to just take off the edge, basically.
Yeah, the beginning and ending of linear in out is really jarring. It's like all of a sudden something's moving. It's like, what? How did that happen? And
decelerate is also quite good. So decelerate is pretty much the same as fast out, slow in, but it's consistent all the way through. Anyway, right. So coming back to what we're doing, we want to use this curve. Now, how do we use a curve with our animation controller? So animation controller doesn't take curves. Its job is to go from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0 or whatever, the lower bound, the upper bound. You can put these values to whatever you want, but the nice thing about having 0 and 1 is like it represents a percentage or a fraction of your animation. It's really nice to work with and engage values, right? Anyway, so what we want to do here is we want an animation. So layout final animation. And the type of animation that we want is still going to be a double. We'll just call it animation. Why not? Animation equals. Now, you could do an animation two different ways. A tween is your usual way of doing this. So there's lots of different tweens. So you can do size tween, you can see like border radius tween, alignment tween, whatever you want to animate, it will look like linear interpolate between the two different values that you give it for start and end. We only want a double. So we don't want to go from 0 to 1, but we want it curved. So we could do this, right? 0, 0, end 1.0, and then we can say animate with our controller, right? That works, right? But again, we need to put a curve on this. I believe now I've done it. Curve tween, is it curve tween? Something like that. Yeah, curve tween. Oh, that actually tweens between different curves, does it? Whatever. Anyway, no, that is it. You just put your curve in, I think. So we could do this. And then the animation would apply the fast start slow in to the 0 to 1 of the controller. Another way of doing the same line is doing animation dot and then doing controller dot drive, and then you give it the curve tween like that. Those two lines are exactly identical. They're just, if you've got the controller like up front, you can drive it the tween, because you might be given the tween as like a parameter from somewhere else, or you can take the tween and then say animate with this controller. But they both do exactly the same thing. I think one calls the other. Drive. Yeah, calls child.animate, right? So either way works the same. There's also a really nice shortcut for what we want to do here. Rather than doing all this, we can actually just do equals curved animation, and the parent of our curved animation is going to be our controller, and then we give it the curve.
Oops, there's a question. Can we add material banner? Can we add a material banner? Can we add a material banner?
Yes, you can. Yeah,
because there's no scaffold there.
Yeah, you don't need this. You don't need a material banner. Yes, you can. But material banner is just a surface with a color with a bit of text on it, which is what we've got. But sure, if you want to use the material theming and you want to take advantage of all of that, go right ahead. The banner is not required. The banner widget does not require a scaffold, although the scaffold is required if you want to animate it with all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so here is curved animations. All these three lines do exactly the same thing. I just want to kind of get that out there because people don't realize, right, when they see different examples. All right, so we're just going to use curved animation. That gets us to the point we want. So now we have a curved animation based on this duration. Away we go. And now we want to pass this animation. We don't have to dispose of the animation because the animation is controlled by the controller. That's what needs to be disposed of, just FYI. So now we want to pass that animation over to our delegate. And let's go past it here. Let's go animation double, animation, and why doesn't it offer a constructor? That's really annoying. Oh, it's because it's not final. Cool. Anyway, I don't know if this offers a super relayout. I think it does. Yes, it does. This is the clever thing. So, by passing the animation that we want to the super of the delegate to this relayout parameter, what this means is as soon as that animation, because it's a listenable, as soon as it does notify listeners, that is when the animation changes, it will automatically relay out our widget. That's exactly what we want. So we don't have to do anything. That's it. So by passing that, now what's interesting about this principle is that this listenable could be a scroll controller, because a scroll controller is a listenable. It can be any listenable. So that's kind of cool. Another interesting aspect of this is not just this does this pattern, but also custom paint delegates, right? Painters. They also have a repaint parameter. And if you use that, you can have an animation that repaints things. And these are all very common things to build together. All right, so now we've got our animation coming in. We want to change the height. So over here, we don't actually want to change the laid out height. Remember this. We don't want to clip that. We don't want to change the height of the child because we want it to like wrap and change his height as. Imagine this was taller and it was displaying 5 lines, and as the height changed, it started displaying 3 lines, 2 lines. It would be really horrible and janky. We want to keep the height, but we just want to move it down. So we want to say the height of the parent minus a fractional height of the child, and we get the value of our animation, multiply it by that, and that's it. That's all you need to do. So that one line has achieved everything that we wanted to do with the size, animate size, right? And the offset is essentially doing our alignment. So all the rest of it is pretty much there. I did an unnamed parameter. That's my fault. So let's go back up. Let's just make a check. So animated size, we have our duration, we have our curve, we have our alignment all. This is IntelliJ. IntelliJ is essentially Android Studio.
You got to put a banner of this up at the beginning of each show or something. I don't know. It's like every single time people ask, "What's your theme?" and why are people so obsessed on that? I don't know.
I've just crashed it because I was hot restarting. Anyway, don't worry about that. I wasn't ready to load it anyway. I did just stay again. I did just realize my descriptions of actions were not turned on. Sorry. You'll now get a little pop-up at the bottom when I press hotkeys in case you want to know what I'm pressing, like Control S save all. It is IntelliJ, and I've got a custom background. I've themed it. I've done a bunch of things. So yeah, but you can customize it however you want. This is in the new IDE structure. So the inside your setting, this is Ultimate Edition. So whatever. But there's new UI. And this enables like all the new UI features. So, and I've got some tweaks and icon changes and things. Right, moving on. Okay, so now we've done this. If I do a hot restart, and now we have no banner, but that's what we want because our animation is set to 0 to begin with, right? So if I now go in here and we did a reassemble and said, so this is hot reload, by the way. Reassemble is called, hot reload is called. Did forward. Yes, Steph. I'm well aware that I still need to do the forward. Anyway, hit save. And there it goes. Animates up. And then if I was to change this to reverse, save, it animates down. Wonderful. Now, this means that basically we want to achieve the same thing, but when the parameter for show is changed. So remember, we want what we're doing is saying if the connectivity was not none, then it's visible. If it's not none, then it's 0. Otherwise, it's 1. Yes, because we want it hidden if you're connected, and yeah. So what we want to do is have a little Boolean flag that we pass in saying is connected. That's a required parameter. Okay, so now we have that flag. We can now take our conditional, pass that in, is connected. All right, so now we're passing that in. Whenever we get rebuilt because the connection state changed, it will change this flag. Now we need to monitor that. And the way we monitor that is did update widget, right? So did update widget. And when did update widget gets called, we go, is our old widget's connection flag different from our current connection flags widget? Connection flag. That means the state has gone from true to false or false to true, but it didn't stay true and it didn't stay false. And if it did, then based on if the new one is connected, then we want to hide the banner. So we do controller.reverse. And if we want to, otherwise, well, we're not connected, so we want to show the banner. So we go forward. So this is great. That achieves what I was doing there with reassemble. So now if I hot restart, okay, it's not visible. We enable airplane mode, up it pops. We disable airplane mode, and down it goes. Perfect, exactly what we want. So we have a bug. Did anyone spot the bug? The bug is this only shows or hides when the state changes, not the initial state. So over here in our animation controller, what we also want to pass along with this is an initial value of 0 or 1 based on if we're visible or not. So we say widget.isConnected. If we're connected, then it's 0, otherwise it's 1. So that way, if the app was started up in airplane mode, the banner would instantly be there and it wouldn't have to animate up, right? Does that make sense? Also, it wouldn't animate up because we're not doing an animation of forward. Now, we could invert this, and then if we wanted to animate up to visually like direct the eye, we could flop these 0 and 1 around so it starts in the opposite way initially, and then do the forward and reverse here. So basically do this same, pardon me, this same bit of logic here, or we pull that out into a function more or less. But anyway, right, and that's way too slow now. So let's get rid of that ×3. Okay, so after all that, we now have a banner that reaches across the width of the screen. It adjusts its height factor. Sorry. I think this should be made.
People already say you should do a package of this. Yeah.
I mean, probably what I should be doing is making a Simon package, and you include the Simon Says package, and the Simon Says package has a bunch of things that I do in it.
No, you got to call it Simon X.
Because oh yeah, we have to put the X in there, right? Like, the reason why I don't think it's worth a package is it's just one widget, and there's no way I'm going to make a package for one widget. I really don't like that idea because it's just the amount of overhead you introduce by adding a package to your compilation is just not worth it for one widget. I'd rather have a collection of snippets that you copy and paste, which, funny enough, is exactly what I have. That's called gists. And so we'll pop this in. I mean, this is in the open source repo, but you can pop it in the gist and you can go look through my public gists, right? All right. So let's get back to this now. So, okay. So now we've achieved our alignment, we achieved our animation and the stack and everything. So that can all disappear. Now, remember, it feels like that there's more physical lines of code, but actually the end result is more optimal because remember, each one of these widgets has many lines of code that it has to run to do that same job. And it has many different options and parameters to do different things. And we had not had to do any of those options because we were very precise and said we only need to do this one thing. So even though we've had more lines of physical, code that we've written, the end result is a lot better overall. Pardon me. And believe it or not, it's a lot simpler. So now when you use this, you can see connectivity banner host is connected. Here's the banner, here's the child, and you're done. Someone was asking if we can use a material banner. So I think it's a material banner widget. Yeah. So there's our content. I guess that's this child. And what else do we have? Actions. I don't want any actions. I guess, is there a style? See, this is the problem. I look at this now. I'm like, okay, oh yeah, background color. All right, so restart. Enable airplane mode. Oh, there you go. Look at that. It basically wants to play, fill up the entire screen because I don't know why. Yeah. We don't constrain it. So size, let's give it a size box. Or is that an error? Maybe that's an error, actually. I didn't check. Let's see. Oh, it's an error. That would make sense. Actions is not empty. So apparently I need an action to use the material banner. I don't like that. So let's put a text button that says
it's got to have something to do. It's an app bar. It wants to have something to do.
So let's put a child in there that is something like open settings. I mean, it's not wrong, right? Like direct the user to what they should be doing or something.
You should use the gear icon then. Never mind.
So I could use an icon, yeah. There you go. So now it says, oh, I need to change that color, obviously, but check your internet's connection, open settings. I mean, apparently it has a line at the bottom, a white line. I don't know. I mean, why am I doing all of this to conform to Material Banner if I'm not using Material and I can just do a box with my text in, which is what I want, right?
Undo.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's fine. I just need you to pick and choose when you want to do things. And I feel like a lot of the time, a lot of Flutter developers think that using the inbuilt widgets will get them somewhere quicker, and a lot of the time is not the case. It's about using the right widgets. So I'm using the material here because it does a physical size and everything else in layer, so it's a little bit more optimal for animations. But equally enough, I could do physical shape, and then provide those. I can't do it, but you can provide those parameters and everything else, and then. Can I provide a color? I think I need to color it elsewhere. There's a shadow color. So, I could probably I can't be, you get the idea. Like, you can do all that kind of stuff, but it kind of simplifies it. Anyway, all right. So that is. Oh yeah, we should relay out. So this is a case. Now you have to think about what we're doing. We're passing in animation, and if animation wants to change the object of animation, then we will want it to relay out because our layout depends on that variable's value, right? So if I go and do in here, we want animation does not equal old delegate dot animation. There you go. That's how we fix it. So basically saying if they're different, then we should relay out. All right, that completes that little custom layout with animation, which is pretty cool. Let's commit that to the repo. I'm gonna thank you, Sub, by the way, for the ideas, but I am gonna deny your PR because we don't need it anymore. Apologies. Feel bad. Close pull press. Thanks so much. Did it a different way. Check out the custom layout. Close. Okay. We're not putting that in right now, so that's fine. The bug. There's a bug. Someone said there was a bug in our initial expanded. What was it? That was it.
Yeah, Sam said it. Where is that? Scroll. Boy, there's a lot of conversation. Yeah, right here.
Okay. Seems to be bug and sliver. Okay, so I guess we'll try it out and see if we can replicate.
Okay.
Yep, there we go. Let's commit this code. So we make some micro commits here. Update activity monitor to use custom layout. Push. All right. So you can all grab that now if you want to go experiment. Right. What's next? So we said let's close all these. We should probably have our sliver expansion tile as its own feature folder because it's quite expansive. Pun not intended. All right, there's quite a lot to this, right? And it's completely uncommented, but the comments are in the video that we used to make it. That's my excuse. I'm sticking to it, right? Expanded sections. Okay. So it does add the initial expanded section when you create the controller. Initially expanded. It is late final, so that means it's going to create the controller here. I mean, I don't see how that would be any different. I guess our problem is further down. I'm just going to tighten this up a bit to make it a bit more clear as to how this is working. So that is exactly the same. I've just moved the initialize down to where it's actually going to happen, just to be clearer about it. Okay, so we definitely know that initially expanded is getting set. All right, so then it must be that when the tiles first start up, that their expansion they're not looking up their expansion in the parent. So let's go look. Well, its expanding of the header is definitely looking up because that's happening during build. Same object, so that can't be a problem. Chevron, working the same. And aha, content. Here's our bug. Okay. Is it or is it? I don't think so. Let's have a look. Content visible. I guess we're going to need to let's see if we can cause the bug to happen. I guess So let's say we go to our category screen here. Oh yeah, let's put our airplane mode off. Let's initially expand the phone and tablets one, and I guess see where we get to. So we did do quite a bit more child content for testing. So let's make that what, 6? Is it 2 aside? No, 4. I don't want to fill up the screen. Keep doing hot restart. Oops. Black line at the edges annoying me. All right, whenever. All right. Categories. Okay, so there we go. So if we want to initially expand these 4, right? So that would be, let's go find the category section name. I can't remember what it was. Category item, wasn't it? It was the item name is what we use. So the name would be the key name. So phone tablet is what we want to add. And I guess we can actually look that up. So where's our tile host? Here we go. I'm going to set initially expanded to category item dot tablet phone tablet dot name. Restart. Working for me. Check out any of the products in, okay, hang on, specifically in the product page file. Okay, well then that sounds like it's probably a problem in, so in here you mean, and when we scroll down, the description is initially open, and like how do we initially open one of the other ones? Is that the thing? Click in on the description. Oh, look. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Hang on, let's go back. Ah, look, I tapped and it didn't toggle it. And I tap again, didn't toggle it. I tap a third time, it finally toggles it. Okay, let's figure out what's going on there. So here's our header. Expansion tile header. Here's our inkwell, which does toggle expanded. If it's expanded, it sets it to expanded false. Section expanded false. If it's expanded, it adds it. If it's not expanded, it removes it. And we're using strings, so we've got an equality match there, no problem. Unless the section name is different. Let's have a quick look. Since we can replicate here, item.name. So I'd say that this is a problem probably in our inherited widget, which is not fun to debug. So let's have a quick look here. I see the exact problem here. Can you spot the problem? That's what I want to know. Do you want to give it a go, Randall? Can you see the problem? All right, so we pass to get the inherited widget to notify about the aspects that have changed. That's the sections. We pass it a list of sections. So we go down here. When it gets update should notify with a different set of sections, it then goes through those sections to notify the particular dependents. Okay, so ignoring that factor, we know, as long as we know that the sections have to be there and they have to be correct, when we first start up, we set our controller with initially expanded. However, what we don't do is set our sections with initially expanded. So right here, our sections always starts as an empty array. So that'll teach me. So what we want to do is, again, make that a late string, a late list of string. No, it's not. It's a set, isn't it? Sorry, it's a set.
It's a rookie mistake there, Simon.
I know. It's what happens when you live code really quickly on a few-hour show. Yeah.
You got a 99 out of 100 ratio, though. I think you're forgiven on this one.
So we could do this. It's one line. It's not exactly rocket science. I think there's also beyond set of. Actually, saying that, I think there's a nicer way of doing that. 2 set, isn't there? Yeah, let's do that. 2 set.
Just put curlies around it.
Could do that. So control update does need to do set state. I don't think there's much in here in terms of duplicating this one piece. We could, however, say make a function called update sections. We don't want to call set state during init state. I think that will cause a little error to pop up. It may just ignore it. I cannot remember. So basically,
given the frequency with which I've seen it, it must not be an immediate error, or people would be reporting, "How come I'm getting this error here?" No, I think it's just ineffective because you're already in init state and you're going to be doing a build immediately after this anyway.
I mean,
okay, sure.
Let's
what the heck?
And then we know for sure it's been too long. So let's try.
Electrons are free, just some small piece of nuclear power or wind or something.
During init state, it calls controller updated, and controller update calls set state, which sets that initial list. All right, restart.
And boom. No.
And oops, I put a dash in there. That's right. All right, no errors. Go to controller page and tap on it. Hey, it shrinks and opens.
So set state during init state is ignored. Okay.
It's ignored. That's good. I'm pretty sure at one point it wasn't. But I'll be honest with you, there could have been a few Flutter Alpha or Flutter Beta that long.
It's also when the big thing you got to watch out for, and just to really distinguish this, is you can't call set state during build.
Yes.
That's the thing that triggers that big nasty error that everybody wants to try to figure out how to get rid of. And I go, hey, when you're building, build on data that's not moving out from under you. That's the important thing to remember. It's got to make one clean pass before you can start messing with it.
It's not even that. It's not, I'll be honest with you, it's not, the real trick here is, and then a lot of people then go, oh, I won't call set state, but I'm still going to change my state. And it's like, no.
Ooh, then it has one bad paint.
It's not even that. It may not even get painted, right? Like you may there's just so many problems, right? So
okay, yeah.
Anyway,
just do it the right way. Do it the right way.
Let's push that. Let's discard that initially expanded section. We don't need that. We'll change the content back down to 4, and let's go fixed issue with initially expanded sections not working. Oh, missed typo. Let's go fix typo. Amend. Working. Amend. All right. Pull. No, pull. Push. All right. Cool. Right. So now we get back down to right. We're just over an hour into the show. I've probably got a couple more hours in me if we want to stay that long. Maybe an hour longer. Let's see. What have you got? Any questions? Should we do a little question? Should we have a little break and have any questions?
Yeah, let me pull back to the ones that we hit before. So let's try this. About UML. Do you guys use any requirements management tool or diagrams while developing your apps? Apparently not, because Simon's not pulling up anything that looks like a UML diagram for this.
Oh, I don't. I do actually. I'm not doing it for this because again, we're here to show off like the code and the product. But for sure, I'll probably use Miro for a lot of diagramming and stuff. That's one of my go-tos. However, if you're doing documentation or things that you want in your code base, I like diagrams as code because it means that you commit them alongside the changes. You update your changes, you update your documentation, you update your structures, and everything is in alignment. You never get out of sync, right? So that's really great. And the open source tool that I always use is Plant UML. Plant UML has been around for absolute decades. It does not just like UML graphs. It does sequence diagrams. You can combine them. You can just like do every type of diagram, and it does it in code. It's like its own little sort of config thing. Even better than that, GitHub understands Plant UML diagrams. You can do code block with Plant UML, I think is the code name. And you can also like export SVGs and PNGs and all that. And there's plugins for IntelliJ, I think VS Code as well. IntelliJ Android Studio both have plugins for it. So as you're editing your diagram, you actually see it, right? Which is also quite helpful.
Another one I like is Draw.io, which has not only a website that you can link to and hand people your draw diagrams, but also you can drop that in as a file. And there's a VS Code extension that makes a side-by-side of your code plus the Draw.io version of it. So that's really nice too. And again, like you said, commit that with your code, because it is useful to the next person along to say, oh, this is what you are actually trying to architect here. Very handy. Cool. All right. Next one. Okay. How to add overlay text when the live video is being recorded. No plugin available. Maybe that means it can't be done.
Okay. Don't do that. So let me explain. Doing any sort of video processing is super duper intensive. Doing video editing on the fly in an app on a mobile is even more super duper expensive. The way you do this is, so I need to unpack your question slightly, but displaying it on the app. So example, let's say we're chatting right now and captions are at the bottom, live captions, right? Or we wanted our company logo to be over here in the corner somewhere, right? You can do that in Flutter in your app. You have your video player, you stick in a stack, you stick the logo in the top right corner, and then each user can pick a logo and it shows on their thing. No editing required. This is better, right? Because what you haven't done is you haven't pushed the metadata, which is those extraneous like video edited things you're talking about, into the video, right? Now, if you want to move the icon from here to this side, right, you can do that. And you haven't had to reprocess the entire video, right? And you haven't had to waste resources. And it's basically video editing on the fly, right? That's exactly what we're doing right now, essentially, right? So that's a lot more, a lot better in effect, right? Because I won't go into it. Go look up codecs and how it works. But anyway.
Right, cool. All right, next.
Yeah, sorry. Well, there was... if you did, sorry, to briefly, if you did want to do that, if you did want to do this video stuff, you do it on the server side. You take all those lovely resources and then you can scale it up and add more GPUs and do whatever you want to do later, and not make someone's handset battery die very quickly and their handset get really hot, right? That's just putting it out there, right?
Or if you really want to burn up the battery, you can always have a plugin with FFmpeg and actually do that on the device. And again, you don't want to do it while you're recording, because the recording is generating an already encoded stream. And to do anything with that while it's going on, you have to unpack it and pack it back again, but slightly different. And that's just silly.
And so to be clear, FFmpeg is an open source project for video processing, AV processing, and you'll find a package on Pub. It will add about 30 megabytes to your deployment, and it is software, and it will be software based on your mobile phones.
Yeah,
so let me be clear about that. It will take advantage of hardware codecs, but those hardware codecs are things like NVIDIA codec on a NVIDIA graphics card, right? And you have to particularly choose that codec. So you need to determine, is a NVIDIA card running? If it is, and I will use the NVIDIA codec, right?
Yeah.
It's not like magically going to work on Android and use the Android APIs to do the encoding. As far as I remember, they don't have like a plugin for that. So it means it won't take advantage of the little chip that's in your phone that does the MPEG encoding and AV encoding. So your phone will get extremely warm and extremely not good. So your mileage may vary. There you go. All right, moving on.
Okay. Yeah. Are we allowed to integrate RiverPod into the WoW shopping app? I guess that's coming up,
if you want to. So we actually have, I think Cherie's part of the DevCamp. Sorry, Sherman. I've been saying your name wrong. Sherman. I think you're part of the DevCamp. Anyway, that's next, not Thursday, but next Saturday is the first RiverPod session. You can start before then, but you probably want to wait until then and actually see the experts and talk to Remy and get your answers, right? So there you go.
Oh, Remy's going to be here? Cool.
Yeah.
That'll be awesome. He's a cool guy. All right. Next question. I think there's a plugin. Oh, we were talking in the chat about internet connectivity, and this was, yes, there actually is a package that sort of does the whole thing, and it's fairly recently updated. Go ahead, make your plug for Connectivity Plus. I know it's part of the community dev stuff.
So I mean, I'd rather that the community that people PR or someone wants to take on the responsibility of updating Connectivity Plus, and actually everyone gets advantage because it's a very popular package and everyone gets those updates, right? Rather than just releasing more packages, because then you get like this kind of split of packages. Suddenly we have 100 packages and we're NPM and we're JavaScript all over again, right? What we really want to do is consolidate our efforts, right? Work as a community together. So that's just one thing I want to get out there. But also you want to be careful. So checking connectivity is not, so what we do with Connectivity Plus is just checking if the device is connected to a network. It may not be connected to the internet, right? And this is what you're going to have at home. Your I don't know, your phone or any apps that you're running on your computer are going to believe they're connected to the internet, but your router may not be connected to the internet. You may have unplugged it from the telephone line or whatever you're connected to, right? Now, officially, you're still connected to the network and you still communicate from your device to other devices on your network, but you can't get on the internet, right? That is specifically two different determinations, right? And to determine if you're connected to the internet, you need a server to communicate with that's reliably going to be there. Not all ISPs allow you to do pings. Not all ISPs allow you to do like different checks. What you're meant to do on your API is actually have normally a heartbeat, it's called, or a ping pong. And it's an endpoint that you call to see if you're connected. And if you're still connected, then you tell the user still connected. If it ever gets back an error, then you can say, sorry, you're not connected, or we can't connect to our API. You've made the determination because you can reliably determine that the remote should be doing a certain thing. If you start pinging some random website, A, that's not good for that website, right? Even Google. And B, you might get blocked and then your apps is offline all the time, right? So use your own API, that's for sure, for certain. And it also means that, if you don't get back what you're expecting in a response, you can say, oh, you may be on open Wi-Fi. You may want to check, you're not being captive portal tunneled.
Yeah, man in the middle stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can do that, but that's your choice to make. So once you know that you're connected like this, then you can make the call to the API to ensure that you're connected. And if you wanted to do a specified interval, we just do a timer, right? Super simple. Timer.periodic. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think Simon should do a special video for just how to achieve his IDE theme. There we go. Well, there you go. On your spare hours, Simon, you can do another video.
I've progressed this theme over many years of usage and tweaks and things, and I could not do a video from start to finish on how to do it. The best, and also not just that, is not everyone would want what I've got, right? Like you find what you find. The thing is, you find this. I've seen some developers apps that are like pitch black, bright colors, and I would just hate that. But it works.
In the words of that great hero, I made a number. Let's see, she has a number of special modifications. She's faster than it looks, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
At the end of the day, I don't think it. I do generally understand your thing. I'd be willing to probably do an export of my settings. Maybe I could check that up online. You can just import it into IntelliJ, but you wouldn't get any of the icons or pictures and things like. Yeah. So.
Okay.
No, maybe.
Cool. Yeah, just a couple more, and then we can go back to coding here. So we got how do we track if we face a bug in production? Ooh, how does analytics work?
Well, okay, so So first of all, there's if you're using Android, then you can use even Android or iOS. You can use Crashalytics. Crashalytics is a Firebase Crashalytics is a platform which basically means if there's what's called an unhandled exception, that is some problem that happened inside your app, and your app did not handle the exception gracefully, it meant that the app officially crashed, right? And what you can do with that exception, you can then report that to your server and record that, and then you can then, from that recording, you can then maybe ping a push notification, send yourself a text message, I don't know, whatever you want, right? But you can then be alerted that you've got a bug in production, right? So in that bug report, you normally have what's called a stack trace. That tells you the line by line of what function led to what function that led to what function. That's, if people don't know this, the stack trace is the stack, and the stack is, think of it like a stack of screens from the app. You go from one function, then you go to the next function, you go to the next function, next function, next function, next function, and it builds this layered stack. So each of those, each one of those is called a stack frame, and you start at 0, which is the most closest one to the code that was running, or the one that actually has the code running in it, and they'll go back down the stack to the one that started the whole process off, which would be like the Dart main loop, right? So some of the times that can be really obscure because you're running the same function multiple times and things. So yeah, Simon is using $0 cost IDE. This is actually the Ultimate Edition, which does cost. However, you can get the Community Edition that's free. It just doesn't have all the features and some functions, but I think the theming is pretty much the same. So you do whatever you want to do. They do say that under license, if you're doing commercial products, you should use Ultimate. However, you can do open source and things like your own personal projects, stuff like that, with the community one, something like that. Again, go read the website.
Yeah, one last question before we can go back here. If I had a receipt printer hardware, what steps do I have in order to print a receipt created in my Flutter app? I'm sure.
Go to pub.dev, and there's actually packages for like pretty much every receipt printer. Search HP, Samsung. I can't remember what it was. There's a standard. I spoke about this before because I've actually made my own drivers for these things. There's a standard protocol that you send and transmit over a channel.
Brother was one.
Brother, that was it. Brother have one as well.
Yep.
So just look up the model in pub.dev and you'll find a bunch of packages. They actually have a name for it. And let me see if I can
printer protocol, probably.
I mean, literally type brother printer and hang on, look. Let me present this on the screen here. Press the right button. There you go. I search brother printer, and I've got brother printer.
Another brother.
Brother thermal printer. Print Bluetooth thermal. Blah 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 blah. I've got pulse print. Another print. Thermal print. I've got loads of them.
So one of those.
I guess the top one down that's got the most likes, pub points, and popularity is Bluetooth thermal printer. So this allows you, I guess, to connect to there. That's it. So here you go. So add-ons, Escape POS utility. So Escape ESC POS is the name of the system for which Brother uses its what they call escape characters. They're like special things to communicate. And as you can see here, base library, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, Bluetooth. You can choose options here. Main features, connects, tables, text stylings, images, different barcodes, cut the paper, beat, paper feed, reverse feed. Oh my God, you've got like all the options. And then look, it already gives you a library and you connect and you just put your lines in and away it goes and you're done. Simple.
That so reminds me of the meta stuff you would send to Haze modems back in the early days.
It's exactly, pretty much exactly the same. Yeah.
The guard on both
like
sides.
the Haze modem commands. Yeah. ATD, ATX, ATDT.
Yeah. Oh, I remember coding in that stuff many decades ago. That's how far back I go. So that's kind of that. There's here's one comment on something we were talking about earlier. So the Internet Connection Checker package supports pings to Google, Cloudflare, and stuff, and you get a custom address. So,
sure.
But if you take that and put that into Connectivity Plus, we'd really appreciate it. You should just have one package that we're maintaining.
Also, you say this, but there's did anyone get permission to do that to Google or to Cloudflare? I'm not sure they agreed to it. I mean, sure, right? But the point here is that, you know, you can't expect them to respect it, right? That's the point I made earlier. And it also can't be guaranteed that the response you get is the response. They may change the response, right? At some point, they may change from a 200 to 201, 202, and suddenly your app breaks, right? You say
I think
they're
talking literally a ping though. If ping 8888 doesn't work for you,
I don't know if it's actual pings, because that is normally blocked by a lot of ISPs, especially telco, cell telephone companies.
Right.
A lot of the custom
blocked.
stuff doesn't go through the proxies. So
yeah. Okay.
But anyway,
yes, it's a big issue. We aren't answering it all this morning. We're just telling you what to go do. All right, good. Let's move on.
Right, we back to this. Let's go back to some coding, shall we?
Yeah, I got nothing else really that is urgent. Oh wait, well, now you got one more. You want to take one more here?
When I log in with Google, it's a black screen. How do I customize the background?
Is that relevant to this show? Is that Flutter? I don't think that's a Flutter question.
I have not. You're going to have to be laser. You're going to have to be more descriptive of what you mean. You're using Google sign-in package. It dims the screen. It overlays it. Sounds like you got a bug. If it dims, and you mean when you say black screen, it like dims black the background. If they don't provide an option to change it, you're shit out of luck. Again, like it's external to your application. It's a security thing, right? You don't get to see it or control it. So good luck is what I'd say. The other thing is, it may not be in the Flutter package. You may want to go look at the native library, because it may give you that option. But to be honest, it's probably not worth it. Why change it? You see it for a split second when you're logging in, and then once it's done, you never see it ever again. It seems like pretty worthless to try and modify that.
Yeah.
When there's more important things probably in your app, like adding Sentry, or things like that. Anyway, all right.
Yeah. All right, move on, and I'll handle the off-topic questions here too.
New section. That's what we want. Right. So we're going to do a shopping cart. All right. Here's our cart blank page. We get to do some UI now. This is lovely. And let's go find the layout. Refresh our memories. All right, so we have a header bar, how many items in your cart. We don't have any empty screen sort of design, so we can make that one up if we want to. Deliver to whatever the address is that you've got assigned. Again, we don't have any sort of CTA here on. CTA is like, what does it stand for? Call to action. It doesn't really have anything here about what happens if you've never selected a delivery address before, right? You should probably have like, add your delivery address with an add button, maybe. All right. And then that takes you to the same screen over here. And maybe it opens up the add bit, which I'm assuming it shows this form. Again, we got a form, but again, it doesn't really show it on a screen. So we're kind of like not got complete design here. And then we've got our per item. So I guess this top bit is, this is per, wow, that seems a bit lot. Okay, I'm not sure I like that layout now I look at it. I mean, sure, each item like this, but do you really need double the height to express a few numbers? That information can probably be obtained in... I get it, but if you've not got a discount, or if there's no shipping fee attached, why just bother displaying them on the screen? That seems a bit useless to me. It takes up a lot of screen real estate to put nothing on the screen.
I'd suggest, so that you do at least a different font or an indent so that it stands out visually when there is an unusual item, if you're making it optional.
Yeah.
So you have MRP is always in the left column, but then if there's minus discount plus shopping fee or something, so that it's visually, there's additional things beyond the rest of these, if you're going to make it optional.
I mean, there's also a lot of shopping apps do a two-stage checkout process. So you have your cart, which is what you're going to purchase, And then you have checkout, which kind of gives you the resulting, all the calculations of everything, so you can be guaranteed it's what you wanted, right? We'll replicate this for now and go from there. So let's do this layout first. And once this layout is done, we'll proceed on to, I guess, delivery and payment and things. All right. So here's our target in the middle. And sorry, I'm filling here. Right, trying to make best use of the space. Okay, you got that on stream. Okay, cool. Okay, so when we were doing the was it wish list? Yeah, so we made like a top bar thing, didn't we? Yeah, I remember that. Well, that's interesting. So all the rest have like centered titles, where this one has left aligned. Kind of like, I think centered is probably might look better, so we'll leave it as that. Let's go find that wish list. I can't remember what widget I made now. Top nav bar. There you go. Wonderful. In a column. Makes sense. We'll then expand it for the rest. Sure. Column. We already have a column. Yeah, we want cross-axis line stretch. We don't want to leave the vertical alone, and we want a top nav bar. Okay, let's make ourselves a bit more room. We don't want any actions. Get rid of those. And we want to say 2 items in your cart. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting this placeholder text in, and then we can then replace that 2 items and come back and add functionality. So my kind of effort here is to kind of get the structural layout in place, and then we can come back and make it dynamic, right? And report back the correct things. So, oops, restart back to here. Oh, I just found a bug. Oh, that's annoying. Sorry, just
a bug, really? No.
No, when I hot restarted, look at the bottom bar. Let's see if we do it. It starts off small, and then when it loads the graphics, it gets bigger. I really hate that. It's not the biggest problem. We can actually preload the icons on the splash screen so that it never happens. So maybe that's like a nice little thing to try later. Do you want to make a little note of that to remind me?
You want me to make a note? Let's see. Where can I make a note? I have a technology that makes notes.
No, I have. I'm gonna add it here. I've got my little note here. Preload bottom nav icons.
Yeah.
Let me do it. All right. We should probably add like a to-do thing with checkboxes on GitHub, like in Markdown file, but whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Also noticing that top bar doesn't have a minimum height. So we probably want to add a minimum height to our top nav bar. And so we've got our column, stack, bottom. I guess if bottom is in there, we kind of want it to get larger and smaller. So it's the stack that we want to wrap with a constrained box constraints, min height 48. Save. Much better. Is that coming? Yeah, it's coming through. All right, it's going to be const. Okay, back to here. Then we've got our delivery address widget. So let's make a status widget, delivery address CTA, panel, whatever. We might want to do something like lift up the state for where to store the address that's selected on change address. Change address. Let's just put a fix my name, come back to that. Okay, so we want, I guess we want the text on the left in a column. So we want a row in a column. Nice and simple. And we want a app button. I think we have, I'm not sure if we have a style and app button for that, so we might have to add one. And our column is going to be expanded because we want to take up, this is the top bit up here we're looking at. And then our children are going to be 2 text widgets. So we're actually going to do, I'm going to show you how to do rich text because I think that's another thing people forget. So I'm just going to use the, hopefully use the text that's in here. As our placeholder. And so we want to make the last two words over here smaller, a bit less intrusive then. Why? Why you no resize? Oh, we got the minimum width. Oh, good luck. All right. So we got this designer whatever as bold. So it'd be nice if we could just do be bold. I actually have a widget that I've made that is on my gists for HTML, and it will do this. However, I don't want to use any external packages right now, so we use text.rich. That's very important. And then it takes a text span, and a text span has like an initial size and stuff. It has children. In this case, we want 2 children, 2 more text spans. And the first text span now is text and doesn't have any children, which would be the delivered to. And then the next text span is going to be the actual thing that we want bold. And then we give it a specific override on just the bold. And that's where this comes in. So we can now say style, was it font weight? Oops. Bold. It's complaining about cons. We won't worry about that to now. Sure. All right, we'll come back to that in a second. Let's just do that for now. Right. So if I save that, we can't because we have it missing our app button. Let's bring that in, and that's going to want a label of, in this case, change right now, and we want it on pressed. Save. Restart. I think what we're going to also do, there's a layout problem here somewhere. Oh, yeah, that's definitely a layout problem. What do we do wrong? We tried, let's do cross-axis alignment stretch. That's something we always should be doing here. So that now makes sure the column meets the expanded. Row and the height, well, that should be fine. I don't think our app button requires anything special. That's in terms of constraints. So our problem is what? I'm not seeing a problem, so let's debug this. What I'm going to do is have this default. Let me just, there we go. Okay. Let me default the startup page to the cart. That's another thing we could do. We could talk about how to save and restore state like that. For the minute, let's change this to cart. And then when I hot restart, it takes us back to the cart screen. Yay. Right. What went wrong here? I wonder if I can't see center being a problem. We do want start, but it must be app button. Let's put app button back in and see what happens. Why are you having a problem now? Oh, because it's not const. Save. Oh, it is app button. Okay. Shape border painter. So we must have a constraint code, an incorrect constraint coming down. We want this. This is basically being completely unconstrained right now. It can be whatever size it wants. Apparently, our app button can't handle that. So what did we do wrong? Let's have a look. I mean, we could wrap this in an intrinsic width. Let's have a look. There you go. All right, so now what we want to do is add some padding in here. So we've got a certain amount going all the way around this widget, so that's nice and easy. Let's wrap out row padding, and we have our lovely global padding things. We say all padding 12. It's about 12, I think. Maybe it tells us somewhere. 14. Yeah, that's close enough. 16 on the top. That's pretty nice. We could do horizontal padding 12, vertical padding 16. Yeah, it's about the same. And we've got our little bold bit. Let's add a little bit of vertical margin between the two. Okay, and now this change button. We haven't got a style for that. So let's go work out what we're doing. So we have style regular, which uses app bar color. Okay. We have highlighted, which is a gradient. What we actually want is a new style. We'll call it outlined. Okay, so what do we need to do in terms of changing our decoration to meet this? So first of all, our text style is going to change. So we can actually do one of these new switch statements. Let's do that. So we can do switch.
I try to mix those in everywhere. They're so cool. It's like, yeah, let's turn this if else. It's just a question mark colon, turn that into a switch. Yes.
So we have our switch statement and our else condition, which is the underscore to return back this style. And then we can add a app button style dot outlined, and we want it to return back a different style. And this is going to be the same bold and everything, but we're going to use our app bar color. No, we don't want app bar color. We want app color. So let's get our app theme up front. Save us from doing that multiple times. App theme. And then down here, no longer const. Our color is going to be app theme dot app color, which is we defined as our orangey default color. And all right, so let's go back to our cart page. Put our style to app button style dot. This would be fun to refactor with block. Sub, you're in the first two sessions. The first two sessions were about doing stuff with block. Or do you mean just the shopping cart in general? Yes, it will. And you can do that. Once we've done this, it goes. Then you have some bases. All right, so now we have our color. That's great. I have a feeling it feels like it's smaller than this. Maybe we should change the font size as well. Yeah. And then we don't want our outline. So we'll do another switch style on our border color. And our else condition is going to return null. And our regular is going to return @bar color, and then outlined we want to turn @color. All right, save. Okay, nice, but I did it wrong. So we actually want, I did the fill color. So we want box border with a switch. So actually, let's put that back and do app theme. We want border, we'll do a switch statement here. And if it's regular, then we're going to return back a border, border all, and it's going to have the color of our app color. Save. Ooh, that looks good. It does feel like the vertical padding is too much, but at the same time that's too little now. And I want to keep to my full grid, so I think we'll just stick with 8, and that's the way it is. All right, so outline looks like this. And we have our tap effect, and we haven't messed up. Have we messed up our other ones? Let's check. Hope not. Let's see. The other 2 buttons are on here. So if I select one, there's our remove, there's our buy. So that's all great. Let's go back to our shopping cart. All right, top section done, tick. Let's go back. So there's our delivery CTA for the moment with hard-coded data. So let's put a couple of fixtures in here. So we come back, replace with selected address, address name, ID, name, replace with selected address. Okay. Key right now. Okay, so that's our delivery CTA. What's next? We do have a line at the bottom of this. I think I'm going to wrap this in a box decoration. And decoration. Oh, it's not box decoration, it's like decorated box. And our box decoration. Border. Bottom. Color. And theme dot. I think we have like a divider color. We have a global divider. Let's just use that for now. Again, if we find out there's borders that we're putting everywhere, then maybe this is a nice widget to make, which is just a widget that adds that border. And you can just wrap widgets with that, right? Let's see how we go. Should probably bring these into the style sheet at some point. I think just color alone should do it. Actually, is there a bottom? Linear gradient, gradient. No. All right. Move on. Save. Okay. Maybe a little bit thicker. 1.5. 2. 1.5. Okay. Right. Moving on. What's next? So now we have a card for each item in the cart, each product. So what we'll do right now, I think, is we'll make a widget for that, and we'll say cart item view. I guess it's a column first. And we're going to want multiples of these. We could have a widget called possibly called a cart list or something. And then it could then deal with loading them and presenting them. For the minute, I'll just put the two hard-coded products per se in here. So we're going to want a way of getting the product. What do we call this? It was product item, as it was. So this is not enough for a shopping cart item, right? So a shopping cart item, we need a new model to store that. A product item is just the product, not the quantity or taxes or some other sort of parameter. Maybe you made a selection about size of shoe. That's all got to be stored somewhere in the shopping cart so we can send it to the server. Say this person wants 5 of these, 2 of those, right? So we're going to need a shopping cart item. For the minute, we'll just put the product in there so we can get the information on the screen, and then we'll come back and change that. All right, so shopping cart view item, we're going to get our items. We have a products repo somewhere. Fetch top selling. Let's do that. If I remember right, it's cached actually. Top selling is a future. Cached items that do. And we'll say it's products 0. Exclamation mark. No? Yes. Oh, const constructor, that's one. Wait, where? Oh, up there. Well, the more you know. Right. Cool. Space. Okay, so now we've got 1. Let's do 2. Cool. Okay, so now we're ready. We've got the item that we want to display. We need to display the item like this. This is more and more feeling like we should have a cart item delivered by, well, that depends. Size, that's the selection that you chose. Return cancellation policy, again, delete the item plus. I guess the delete is there when you get to 0. So plus, and then the bin icon turns to a minus. That can be kind of cool to build.
So you'd have like a cart item and a cart item view. Oh, you already have a cart item view. You just don't have a cart.
So this is just a view. I think we need a cart item model, right?
Yeah. Because you got status about that.
Yeah.
Like you could have like a damage price for a unit of 1, for example.
So let's do a cart item. And we'll use our product item for reference. So we'll have it JSON serializable, just like the original. Over there. That means we also want to have some of these things. Okay, that's our kind of basic copy paste right now. So we know we want a cart item. What is called cart item, and generate code. Cart item. Okay, and we need 1. I can't, when there's errors, you can't format. That's kind of annoying, which makes sense because it's syntactically incorrect. Let's make a we need a product. That's the product item that is attached to this cart item. So we can add that in there. That is definitely required. You cannot have a product in your cart without a item in your cart without a product. All right. So we don't really have a none. All right, so that's enough of that. Let's bring this back over. And I've got a shortcut here for where is it? Flutter build runner, which just runs Flutter pub run build runner build, which is your standard thing. That's what is in the documentation for JSON serializable, and that will run the build actions. Whilst it's doing that, let's think about what we need. So we need the product to get the graphic and the title. Delivered by, I guess we want a delivery date. It does, like, I think, again, that how you do this model would be very particular to the company. So, for example, think, so they call it consignments, right? This is, you may get 2 products that are being delivered in one consignment to you, right? One package. But you might have another product coming from a completely different warehouse at a completely different date of time. So now you have your orders made of 2 consignments, 2 different deliveries. So when we sort of delivered by the 12th, what we don't really care about in this case is the delivery date per item. What we care about is what consignment it was assigned to, right? And again, that's all going to come back from a server and things, right? So for the moment, sure, delivery date, and we could just push that off for now. But again, you can see there's ever more complexity when you start looking at more and more details, right, of an application. It's very easy as a developer for you to go, oh, that's easy, that's simple, or oh, I can do this period of time. And then the more that you actually refine and look at the problem set, it gets larger and larger and larger, because as a programmer, you have to go to the nth degree. You have to go all the way down. So it can be a lot more complicated than you initially think. Okay, let's carry on. Let's put delivery date in there, because that is fine for what we're doing. Delivery date. What else do we need? We need option. So this is going to be fun. We're going to have to do options now, but that's okay. This is actually kind of interesting, I guess, because we start doing generics. And then we've got return and cancellation policy here on this one. So I guess certain products may have additionals to it, additional things to be displayed. Let's not worry about that. Maybe that's based on things like the category. What if it's a shoe or a fashion product? Then we display the returns policy, right? Things like that. So then we've got our quantity. So that would be quantity as an integer. We can't have half a shoe. Or I guess you could have 1 shoe out of a pair. Okay, and then the rest of the numbers can be counted. I guess we got shipping fee. I guess we got let's call it. We got delivery date. Let's call it delivery fee. So I think we're going to start adding another package, and I need to tell people about this because this again infuriates me. So you're going to pass on some knowledge. If you deal with financial numbers, you do not use doubles. Randall agrees with me, because you get into problems with floating points. That is,
oh my god,
you get fractional pennies and other weird funny or cents or whatever. You get some weird funky things happening, right?
I gotta find. I'll find this tweet that I made a couple days ago. I'll bring it up when I get there.
So there's actually 2 packages which are great for this. You have decimal and rational. Rational for rational numbers is the basis of decimal, right? So it depends on what you're doing. But decimal is exactly the package that you want to solve this problem. I don't know why I've not liked it, but now it's liked. So yeah, you can give it a textual number in a string, and then what you get out of it is, so let me make this bigger for those that don't quite understand what we're talking about. Here's the example on the string. So with a double, you do 0.2 plus 0.1. And now, as a person of a real brain, you go, oh, that's 0.3. What does a computer display? 0.30000000004. That is a rounding error. And it's complicated. I'm not going to go into it now. There's plenty of videos on YouTube you can go watch about rounding errors. However, if you use decimal.parse 0.2 as a string, decimal parse 0.1 as a string, and then add them together, you get 0.3. Because it knows how to deal with this. It does the math a different way. I won't go into it. Anyway. Oh, that's nice. That's cool. They've got a lowercase d function as a shortcut. Oh, no, you can do a lowercase d as a shortcut, like for decimal.parse. That's kind of cool. You could also do an extension on string, right? .d. 0.2.d or something, right? That would be cool. Maybe we should do that. And then you got formatting with the internationalization package. Wonderful. Here's how you do it. Decimal pattern, format, blah, blah, blah. All right. I think this is the time. We're gonna add decimal because
here. Just a second.
Go on.
Can you see that? That's shared. You can bring that up.
I can bring it up.
There. This is real from mail I just got.
Yeah. You want 0.99999 recurring?
I was thinking of writing a check for exactly that amount and see if they would cash it.
I mean, the problem here is if you gave them 87.31 cents, they would say you're 1 cent short.
Exactly.
Because they would you should be rounding that should be rounded up, right, to 3.2. To 0.32, sorry.
Anyway, there we go.
So yeah. Here we go.
My most recent example, they actually did the same thing like maybe a year ago. I made an amount that happened to be something that rounded off slightly wrong. And they're the only bank, I don't think it said it in there, so I think it was safe. But it's a large multinational bank did this. This is not your mom and pop bank down the street.
The problem here is you have to use, so again, this is another point to make here. You have to use decimals. It's probably in the actual banking, like low level, they probably use decimal, for that. But when it went to sending an email or whatever it was, or print out a letter or something, it went, oh, I'm going to go use floating points, right? Anyway, you have to use decimal. So if you think about your representing money, currency, it is a decimal, right? In DAR. That's what you have to think about.
Well, I have this theory that their auditors, the programmers wanted to do it right and round it off after 2 decimal places, but the auditors, thinking of the salami attacks, would go, no, you can't do any rounding here. When in fact that means they don't understand floating points.
No, we're not going down this rabbit hole. No, I refuse.
Okay.
I get your point. All right, so let's say
watch Office Space, you'll find out.
So all right, yes, exactly. So what we're going to now do is and I did this for simplicity because I didn't want to go down this rabbit hole originally, but we're now going to do it. So decimal. Oh yeah, we need to add the package. Let's do that. Where are we? Our dependencies are growing. Right, now we should be importing it. Brilliant. So how do we want to deal with this? Because obviously this is not the way to do this. So we can do decimal.0, I think it is. I think there's like some, there we go, 0. Nice constants. If we want to format a currency, instead of a double, we get a decimal. Wonderful. Let's import that in. And what did he say on the thing? Let's go look. If you want to format with the internationalization package, it was number formatter in US, decimal format, which is the same as current simple currency for us. Format, and there we use this special decimal INTL value.
This is a relevant question here. What's when the amount is 7? Does it display 700 or just 7?
Well, that is completely up to you. So that is what this formatter is. So if you see compact simple formatting, you actually get to the decimal digits, but when you get back a formatter, you can actually set the minimum, you get minimum fraction digits. So if you set that to 0, so if we were to do that, for example, that's not going to work, Simon. Final format equals this. Sure. Let's just pull that out and make it simplify this. Let's just say $4 for testing. So if we were to do this, then what we're actually doing is saying, okay, the fractional digits can be a minimum of 0. In other words, none. So you would actually get $7, and that would be app-wide, or we could even pass that as a parameter and conditionally add that. But by not specifying it, what you're saying is, I want the default minimum from the locale, because some countries may expect to use a comma instead of a period for separators. Some have thousands of separators. Some have tens of thousands of separators. Like the way you format numbers and currency depends not just on the currency, but where in the world it is. And the same goes, and what language they're reading as well. So, it's internationalization and localization is a complex topic. We're not going to go about now. But suffice to say, use the defaults. Flutter ships the ITU internationalization data stuff with it. So you can just use INTL like this and it will work. You give it the right locale and it will present it correctly for that user in their language. Make sense? Cool. Moving on. Right. Back to where we were. Sorry, went off on one. Right. Okay. So why? Okay, can create const. That's fine. As long as it creates one, for an instance, that's fine. So static file does the job. All right. So that's how product has been changed. How do we? Here's the problem. How do we pass a decimal with our JSON parser? Because it doesn't know what a decimal object is or how to construct one, and it does need to know that. So the way we do this is what's called, see, this is another interesting point. So to be clear, in JSON, oh, look, there is a from, that's kind of cool. Look, from JSON. And is there a to JSON as well? That would be really helpful. Let's have a look. To JSON. Oh, there is. So that's really cool. So it uses string to represent it, which is correct. Or you can use an integer, by the way, but your integer would be like the number of cents, if cents is your minimum unit of currency, for example, or pennies for the UK, for example. And that, because you can't have less than one of that value, right? Less of 1 penny or 1 cent or something, right? Anyway, strings are fine. That works. And they're human readable. Other than big numbers are kind of difficult to represent, and people may get the no, the word's gone, but the size of it incorrect if you just have an integer, right? Like they may think it's in pounds and not pennies, or vice versa. Right? From JSON to JSON, that's great. I don't think though it will detect that automatically, but you know what? I don't know, so we're gonna do build Flutter. Oh yeah, no, we have a. That's not going to work. Install. We need our shopping cart needs to be finished here. So, what did I say? Let's go back to our shopping cart. We went off on one. We needed shipping fee. That was it. So I'm going to add in a decimal delivery fee because we've got delivery date, delivery fee. Shipping is very much an American metaphor. We don't use shipping as a word over here, really. It's always delivery. Anyway, now option. I added option in there, so we'll come back to the decimal piece in just a second. We need to get this compiling. So option. How do we deal with that? So each type of product can have a different type of option selected. What those options are and what the parameters are for those options probably are varied and wide. So we need to better explain this in our model. So an option, for the moment, we will, let's fix this. So we're going to have a product option extends option. I don't really like option as it's too simple of a class name to really declare this. We'll call it product option. Let's just make a large class. We'll call it product option. And what does an option have? It has a display name and an ID, something like that, something that indicates which option was chosen, and then something to display to the user about that. All right, so we obviously want a way of representing that in our model. So we're going to make this JSON serializable, and we're going to need to do a few things. So let's grab that. And this is a product option, not product item. And we want a const product, product option. And we want this to have, as I said, an ID and name. Yeah, that sounds about right. I think string on both of these, and that gives us a bit of flexibility. Name, make those required. And we want for each product, we're going to want a series of options. And guess what? Now what we need to do? We need to go add some options. So empty one, no options, makes sense. You might not have a product with any options. So we could default this to a blank list, right? And make this optional. I think that's quite reasonable, actually. Let's move it down. All right, so we make it optional. Let's generate the code, and that'll generate these $$ generate functions. They just generate with $$. You can generate a class with any name. It's just no one starts their classes with this. That's why it's been used. All right. By the way, my idea is very like these bars are never this big, right? The reason why they're big is because I've made everything larger for the stream. It's much nicer when the font size is set smaller. Bars are definitely not this big. Right. Is there any questions coming in?
Anything directly related? No. Let's see here.
Oh,
ARB file. Something about an ARB file here. This one.
Yeah, ARB files. Yes. So that's another interesting point. Again, like this ID, for example, we could use that as a lookup into some sort of locale rather than shipping the name and various things. The thing that they're talking about was about like, currency and things. And yes, we don't do localization in the app right now. Localization is a whole topic in itself, and we could do like multiple shows on that. But for the moment, we'll just stick to one, keep things simple. Again, we can just keep expanding on this and expanding and making the example better and better. Anyway, so option in here, that sounds correct. Let's hit build again, make sure that works. And finally, we'll have our cart item. Yay, okay, succeeded. Right. Oh, well, it would have if by the way, it did actually succeed. I think if I go to from JSON, it Oh no, it's missing them. Oh, I lied. Let's run again. All right, so that should generate that. Right, let's move on. Cart item. Okay, so now our cart item view depends on the cart item. How do we get those cart items? Now we're starting to get to the juicy stuff. So we can no longer just use our cached products. That doesn't work. We could definitely hard code a couple of examples to do the layouts right now, or we can go down the avenue of doing a cart repository, showing how to save and restore the shopping cart so that multiple restarts of the app does not lose the shopping cart. Things like that. Who wants to do what? Viewers can decide. Shall we go with a repo, or shall we go with the UI first?
Make your phone calls now to this 976 number. I don't know if you had that in the UK, but they used to do these telephone polls where you call and cost a 900 number or something.
Charges may apply.
Yeah, charges may apply on your vote.
Right. Okay, we got a repo.
Yeah.
A quick break here.
Oh, repo. Lots of repos. Yes. Repo. I think that's, oh, okay. I'm misreading. Anything works. Oh, that's about, yes, right. Yep. So there are some questions. We're getting kind of long in the tooth here. I don't know if we should start figuring out how much more we can do, and then maybe take the 3 questions that we have in the queue. Do you want to do that first and then go?
Let's do that first.
Dive in. Okay, so let's look at those. Here's the first one. How do I create a flexible space on the top of a column with constraints for max height? Space should always be expanded to the max height and should be flexible to allow other widgets when needed. People have such complex layout requirements.
Let me. How do I create a flexible space on top of a column with constraints for max height? Space should always expand to only the max height and should be flexible to allow other widgets. So you basically just saying, how do I do max height? So it can be smaller and it gets to a max height and then it stops.
So constrained box around.
Constraint box with box constraints, max height, this. And in fact, I just did it, didn't I? What did I do? Min. I did min. But it was the. You must have missed the beginning. It was top nav bar. Here we go. There you go. So as you can see on the screen, I just wrapped whatever bit of the layout in a constraint box with constraints, and I set min height. Well, you can just change that to max height. There you go. If you put this inside a single child scroll view, then what will happen is once it reaches the max height, it will then start scrolling. If you go look at the examples in the API guides for single child scroll view, the API documentation, it has some great examples of expanding content to fit the viewport, which is one thing that people don't know how to do. So here, flexible content, but if flexible content was to get, is this the one here, red? Yeah. If flexible content was to get to, let's say, 2000 high, if it loads, there we go. It says it now scrolls. Oh yeah, it scrolls with the mouse wheel. There you go. Right. So it will get bigger, but if I put 20 in here, which is smaller than what's available on the screen, oh, not save, sorry, run. Then it will be sized to the maximum. Okay. There we go. So that should be in the middle now. Wait for it. There you go. So even though I put 20 as the minimum, it's actually sized it to this high, right? And then the same goes for another example in here, this one here, which is basically saying, Oh, you can go read it. I won't go for it. But anyway, yeah, that's you want to go look at that, and also your constraint box. That will answer your question. All right, moving on.
Okay. How about this one? You mentioned rich text, and I remembered a challenge I had: how to add multiple styles to a text widget, like a rich text style. Well, you just change it to rich text, right? I don't understand.
Does that lead on to another question, or is that just cut short?
No, for other context, I would like give the error text of a. Oh, you're right. Yeah, it's somehow. How do we? How do you find the thing that's currently selected in this other scrolly thing here?
I got it.
Yeah, here. This. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
There. Text field, different color, for example. Emphasis on text. How it work? Yeah, that's rich text.
Yeah, that's what I just showed you. So maybe either we did it anyway and you missed it, or so if I go back to our cart screen and down to delivery CTA, you do text.rich, not rich text. So if you use a rich text widget, this is different. It may work and have a similar syntax. I think you actually specify a name parameter here, right? So, sorry. Why is that a thing? There you go, constant. Sorry. So that may work now, right? But there's actually a key difference. Rich text does not use the default text style. Text.rich does. And that has implications on how material design works and other things. So anyway, just be rest assured that every text widget uses rich text underneath. Watch this. Look, if I go text widget, here's a normal text widget with data. Let's follow data. It's a string. Let's follow where that's being used when it indexes. There we go. It's being passed as a text span to what widget? Oh, rich text. So it doesn't matter if you're using a normal text without rich text, it's still a rich text widget. And here's the thing it does. It works out all the parameters for you to rich text to make sure that they're correct based on the media query and everything else. So rich text, do not use that widget directly. You always want to use text.rich. Okay? Okay. As long as you got that.
Next.
And then text spans, and that does it.
Okay. Intrinsic widgets are expensive relatively. When is it okay to use, and when should we consider skipping this? Oh, well, that's a tough question, I think. Right?
I think you should just use them. How's that?
Lovely.
So he says are expensive relatively, and it's like, well, are they? I mean, the documents say they're expensive because again, you're doing 2 layout passes. But if you think
when you need the number, you need to use it. It's like anything. Yeah, you don't just like do calculations that you're going to throw away.
It's like
that would be stupid.
Don't put intrinsic widget around every widget in the entire hierarchy, right? Because then that would be silly because you'll be doing everything twice and it'd be recursively deep and so on, right?
It would be as slow as Chrome. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Right. That's literally what it does. So yeah, the point here is use the widgets, and if you find you've got a performance problem, then work out a way of not using the widgets if they introduce a performance problem. Right?
Yeah.
It's that simple. If you need the intrinsic width, well, then you use the intrinsic width widget. If you need the intrinsic height, then use the intrinsic height widget.
If you need something even more fancy, Boxy. That's always my universal answer. When you want to start doing really weird layout, go use Boxy. You'll understand why after the first time you use it, why you don't use it all the time.
Yeah, so there you go.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, again, like don't wrap your entire app UI in an intrinsic width or intrinsic height because now you've just made it measure every widget in your whole view hierarchy to work out the size of it. However, if you've got, let's say, a pop-up dialog and you want it to naturally change its size based on its content, it needs to know the intrinsic width and height to do that, right? So suddenly you probably need the intrinsic width and height to correctly lay things out.
Yep.
So,
all right, one last one here, then we can get back to cutting. Is there a specific reason you chose to use the top selling items in a list view instead of a grid view?
Yes. Sorry, that was, to be clear, what we're talking about is this grid here of 4 items. A grid view will always expect a specific aspect ratio for every child. If this child has 3 lines and I want this one to be slightly taller than this one, or other whatever, right? You can't do that with a grid view. And the reason for it has that, because of the way the layout algorithm works with wrapping and everything else, we know we're always going to have 2 items, right? Really simple layout to do, right? We don't need any complex layout algorithms that grid view imposes with its delegates and cross-axis alignments and aspects, right? So it's easier just to have the row. And then if there's one missing, we'll just do 1 instead of 2 and use a spacer to fill that one. That's exactly what we did.
Cool.
And it also, to be clear, this is put in a sliver list. So if you have a long list of these items, each row is recyclable by itself. So imagine we had, instead of 4, we had 50, 100. When I scroll down and we display 6 on the screen or 8 on the screen at once, when those top 2 go off, they get the widget for the row gets reused coming back on the screen, for example, and things like that. So we actually get performance as well from it.
All right. So we got just a few. We have 2 more questions. Do you want to take those now, or do you want to wait until after you're done talking about it
now?
Okay. All right. Then it's this. I'm using a web view with an app bar on top. When I pop and return to the screen, getting a state error. I'm using classic example in the docs. This error is only when I add the progress bar, and he continues. So this question in GitHub as a bug. So it's using state in a web view widget, not an option.
Okay. I saw them. State. Okay. So using state in a web view widget. I don't get what that's about. Let's go back. Go back to the previous part of the question, the first part.
Sure.
I'm using a web view with an app bar on top, but when I pop and return to the screen, getting a state error. I'm using classic examples in their docs. When I pop and return, the error is only when I add the progress bar. I think you've just got, I'll be honest with you, I think you probably got a standard state widget issue. Which basically is you're returning your state back on the screen, and it's reusing the state for a new widget or something. Sorry, wait a minute. So. So let's see. I think I'm going to say a good placement of keys. So put a key on your web view, or put a key on your top level widget inside your screen or something, and just give it an ID. So just use the capital key constructor, KEY, and it takes a string, and that string should be unique for that screen, right? However you used to start it. Then if you pop it and a new one gets pushed or whatever it is you're returning to, it's not going to try and reuse the state.
Cool.
There you go.
All right. On to the next here. Last one here for now. What are your Flutter team's thoughts? Well, first off, we don't know what the Flutter team thinks.
We do not work for Google. We're not part of the Flutter team. We are community.
They send cool shirts to us, but that's about it. Yeah. Okay. That's all. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on using a navigator key to have global context for your Flutter app?
I've answered this before. Don't do that.
Yeah, it's simple.
I just spoke about this earlier on today. And frankly, the problem here is you're accessing global context for your app from a global variable. I mean, it's completely, not testable. You can't test individual components that rely on that to be set, because now you need to go set that variable. If you can't run multiple tests or bits of code in parallel, because they all depend on the same one thing, they might need to be set differently. There's plenty of reasons why having a global is not a good idea.
Yeah, okay? Plenty. Use Riverpod singletons. Those are much nicer than a global. Use Riverpod singletons.
So you can specify navigate key, but why not put that in? Keep that in your app widget that surrounds Material app.
Yeah,
and then add it on provider. Right? Navigate a state on provider. Now any widget can go get it. Oh, wait a second. You don't even need to do that, because you can do that anyway. That's what navigator.of does. So, right.
Yep.
The point of you're trying to get the state. Let's say I can see what people do, and what people do with having their global context is, let's say you call an API, some asynchronous thing, you get an error, and then you use that to display a dialogue to the user or some error. That's totally the worst way of doing that, because let's say I went between 3 different screens and it made 3 different requests, and it was really slow connection. I'm on, I don't know, a conversation with a friend, and then it pops up. Your message could not be sent. I just tried to send that message 3 screens ago. Why the hell are you trying me to that now? Because now I think I didn't try to send that message to this person, right? You just completely confuse the user because you're taking it out of context, right? You try and do something on that screen, the return response is on that screen, perhaps, right? Like, you need to think about taking things out of sequence, and especially with async, right? When things go slowly. And you can just try this out yourself. If you run on an emulator, most emulators let you set the network speed, and you can even set bad network condition, and it will drop packets and simulate like, really what your app would be like if they're on a really crappy connection, which happens a lot. Not every person using their phone is right in front of a good internet connection with their desktop in front of them, right? That's what every developer builds on, right? Or laptop or whatever, right? All right.
Let's move on. We've probably got another 20 minutes left before this becomes a 3-hour show. I'm gonna set aside any questions that come in that aren't directly related, and you can go ahead and work on them.
And then we'll just get them at the end, and then we'll call it.
We have one more Q&A session at the end, but I'm only noting questions for that period. I will otherwise interrupt Simon, as always, because I'm good at interrupting.
Right, so we need shopping cart items, and we need a repo for that. People voted for repo, so let's go repo. So let's minimize all these things. So we have a product repo, and we know how that works. Pretty much very similar to this. We want a new class. We're going to call it cart repo, as short for cart repository, something to store the shopping cart stuff, right? We call it repo, right? Yeah, cart repo. And what does cart repo need? It's going to need a file const. We're going to want to load. So we're going to have a mix of things. We're going to take what we previously did here for wish list, bring that in. Now this is interesting. I wonder if there's, I think this is a good time to do this. Let's do this. We're going to make another parent class and call it, I could be cheeky here, hydrated repo. Or persisted repo. Maybe that's better. Persisted. I don't know. That's just got my brain. You know when you look at a word and you're like, is that right? That's right. That is right. Spelled right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, it was. Yeah. All right. Good. All right. So we want a persisted repo. This is an abstract class, right? And it's going to require let's go back to our wish list. We're going to want a type. We need a new type, and we're going to call this persistable data. And our persistable data type is required to have 2 functions, and that's going to be to and from JSON, right? So I just thought of an issue with that. Let me have a think. Can we override name constructors? Should be able to. Or factory methods.
I just want to know, your thumbs are really loud. Your fingers are really loud.
Oh, really? Whoops. Sorry.
I heard.
It must be vibrating for the mic stand. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. Just to let you know.
So what we actually want to do here is we definitely want a to JSON, right? So we want a way that we can hydrate that. And we do want to create one from JSON. However, the problem here is, how do we actually do that? I think we're going to try a factory from JSON and then see if we can establish that maybe a bit better. I don't know. Let's see what happens, right? This can only go wrong. I'm really tempted to not do this right now because I feel like we're just going down the next rabbit hole, you know? Yeah, I didn't think it's going to like that. I mean, let's see. So we want a type, a generic type that extends persistable data. So basically, our persisted repo depends on a type that extends persistable data, right? Okay. So now if we go to our wishlist storage, we use this as our test. This now needs to say with, we don't need to extend. And then, oh no, because this needs to be one of the new mixing classes. And we can't have constructors with I thought. So if we have it, that abstract class extended, what does that mean? Let's have a look. Ah, okay. So we could have a persistent like that. Then we don't need that name constructor. And instead we need to have another constructor. What? Oh. All right. Well, that's looking promising. So toJSON is getting our override. And we could get rid of factory here. So there's different behaviors to a factory method. Means that we can run stuff that returns back the object, which means we can run code, not just initialize, whereas a name constructor like this can only initialize directly. And a static method, which is another way of doing this, we have like a static method that returns a wish that's called from JSON, cannot be overridden in extended class. We're actually kind of stuck here. We can add, we could register a function and then do this more as a registry kind of thing. So rather than using rather than actually using something like this, we could actually define some types to have something like persist with, as JSON. And I'm going to leave this for another time because we'll run out of time and won't get to the other bits. So persist as JSON, and then just to show you this, and then say extends. But from JSON. So we could define like a function that meets the requirement, and then that function can then be passed into a registry that registers it so that the persistent repo can use it. I'm not going to go there right now. I feel like we're going down a rabbit hole with persisting. I think copy and paste will do the job right now. But we'll leave a little fix me to abstract this out. I think that's the best way. All right, moving back to where we were. We're going to grab our static, throw it in here, and we're going to grab our model, which is storage. Call this cart storage. Let's get rid of this data. Not that anymore. Good. Okay, and items blank, and then what we're persisting is going to be cart item, and it's a list of cart item. Okay, and so if we get items in a unmodifiable list view, and of cart item, and then we want to take this to and from our storage. This. All right, so that it's not overridden anymore. Oops. Take that off of here. Oh yeah, we want to make this back to a factory. Let's go to here. Okay, so we can generate again, and that will generate our cart storage. Then our cart repo. Where's our wish list? Not it was wish list. We're going to want to have a file that we can report back to correctly, and we want to. So we can here like this. Let's say storage. Want you can see how similar these are, right? Obviously, they would the more that we do change on each one, they would diverge. But there's a common base here that we can pull out and provide some combination, some combined logic for it. But I think right now that is taken it one step too far right now in terms of getting this working on time. All right, so. We want to turn the shopping cart. We don't have any dependencies right now. We have cart storage. Control storage. Let's bring path provider over. Path library. So something like this could be something that you would extract out into a function alone, right? So something that says, I'll get this data file from my application data directory or something and return the file and the data. And have like a default constructor or not. But yeah, let's another time. Right. All right. Cart repo, find the storage, and then init was about setting up a stream. We'll do that. I think I'm going to go stick RX in this and get rid of the stream controllers, but not right now. But we can do that as well in another stream. Let's call this cart controller, I guess. did that come from? Oh, yeah, because it's getter. We want current cart items. Stream cart items. So we don't need to map anything. It's just got the items directly, and this cart item again is controller. All right, so we got stream and the current cart items, and I think the functions that we're going to have very similar to this, at least, which is we're going to want to add and save. So we want to add to cart, and it's going to be a product item, and we're going to want a product option, optional product option. And we'll have a empty or none. Yeah, let's do that. All right, then we can have that to be nullable. We can now have it a default value. It's called a sentinel value for those that want applying along at home. Then we can check to see if option is none, and then say it's okay, it's not been set. Okay, so funny enough, we're going to need something similar to: is it in the wish list right now? So contains product, or we could say, I guess there's something in here like when we increase the quantity, we're going to want to not just add, but to kind of augment, adjust the existing ones. Sorry, 1 second. I will be right back. You have to dance for people.
I'll do something. Oh, I know what I'll do. Here he is. Here's Dash. Trying to do non-copyrighted music, so we don't get a YouTube ban. Simon will be back soon, and in the meanwhile, I could actually answer questions in the chat room. There we go. Okay, all right.
Sorry.
See, I'm useful for some things, just some things.
Okay, so what do we have here? So current item, stream items. We're going to add an item. So where are we? Wish list is storage now, and we need a way of saying first where, single where. I want to contains where, just like, I guess. That does kind of annoy me, actually. I mean, we can return back a sentinel value, right? To say first where or sentinel, or I just feel like there should be truthfully, there should be like we should add a comparator, proper comparator stuff, but I'm being lazy right now. All right, let's do first where. And this is now a predicate, and our predicate is going to get an element, and then we want to compare. Does the product ID match the item ID that we've been given? If we don't find one, this is critical. We don't want it to throw an exception. We want it to report back product option none. Oops. Okay, so if we take this out here, I'm going to say, make a function of that, cart contains product item, because this is probably something that we're going to want to do a few times. So it's complaining because we're returning back a product right now. Instead, what we want to do is use the sentinel value to say if the return product does not equal none. Let's see, what is the problem here? Oh, product option. Whoops. That's product item.none. Sorry. Now what? It's cart item. Of course it is. Where's my cart item? And we didn't do a sentinel value on that. All right, so let's quickly chuck it in there and say static const none is cart item. Product item none. Date time.now. Decimal 0. Product option dot none. Oops. So I just speed through this. And quantity 0. And make that final. Because there's this nice optimization here. The key is that it doesn't change, so we can, once it's been set, it's set, so we can make a comparison. That's an identity comparison. All right, let's come back to here. So this should be cart item. And, all right, ta-da! Right, that is really, really horrible. So let's do found equals this. And found is like that. Now, whatever way I look at this, it just formats terrible. Ooh, can I do that? It's a little better. All right, moving on. So, cart contains. If it contains the product item, then we could do is increase the quantity, right? So fix me increase quantity of existing one, right? In which case we probably want to say cart item for product. And then still keep the contains, but then this just goes into item like that. We'll come back to that. Right, so storage, and what we want to add is a new cart item. Our product is the item that we've been given. Option is the option that we've been given. Delivery fee.
This is relevant here, I think. Could
0.
we declare a cart item none constructor instead of a variable? Are there any differences between a none variable and a none constructor?
Why? Okay, so the problem here is. Okay, let me just write in here first of all. Sorry, let me just finish this off.
Sure.
And then. Now what is the problem here? Storage is final because apparently I'm an idiot. Late. I was a bit late. Okay, cool. And let me just get rid of these errors and then I'll take that question. So I'll say where it's not element dot product we should probably that's fine. And then timer. Let's grab our timer. Pretty much very identical, these things right now, but they definitely is going to have separate functionality as we go. Non-final fields. Oh, yeah. All right, and then that's storage. Okay. We have a cart repo. Let's get that in backend. Can you bring the question back up in a second?
Okay. Just trying to make more room on the screen in case people.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Right. So now we have a cart repo. Let's add some fancy getters in our I feel like I probably want to split this up a bit more. It's going to get too much at some point, and then we probably want to refactor all this. All right. So we're now back to the cart page, and now this can go cart repo dot. Yeah. So we want to wrap this in a stream builder right now, I guess. And it's going to take a list of cart item.
You always want to save some items for refactoring for those days where you can't really want to be productive because you have a hangover or something.
You're revealing too much about yourself there.
Yeah. Long ago.
Right. And here we go. Async snapshot list of cart item. All right. So now items is going to be snapshot dot required data. Always use required data, not data that. Right. Like that's what it's there for. I mean that's what it does under the hood, right? Like, but it will throw properly and all the rest of it. Right, items. So now we can say for final item in items, show that item on the screen. Wonderful. And then inside our cart item, we're just going to put in the moment a padding. Let's put text, which is item dot product dot name. Is it title? Yeah. And item dot product dot price. Let's wrap in the padding. So something to display on the screen right now. I don't think we have time for the layout. We're already over right now, so I'd rather just get the repo working. Okay, so now what we've got this is we're looking at this here where we've kind of got some items, and what we want to do is add to this now. So now we can display an item, which is going to display title and price. How do we add the item? So if we go now, we've got our repo. If we go over to our product details page, and we have a wishlist page as well, actually. So the product page, we have like an add button somewhere. Then we have buy button. Add to cart. Yeah, on the option. All right, so product size selector. We kind of hard coded this right now. UK. That's we select it. Add to cart. So we'll add it in here temporarily. Still leave the fix me in there because it does need some work still. So cart repo context. Okay. Oh no, read. What did I put in there? Oh, if we implement backend state. And this is stateless. All right. Yeah, so it's this right now. All right. And then we want to say add to cart item. Yes. And yeah, product item. Now, what we do actually want to do is specify an option, but let's add a little fix bin here. Specify option for size. Okay, and we also want to emit an event that we can display to the user and say, "Oh, item added." So the designs have this really nice. I really wanted to do this actually, so we will do this. This is 2 items pop up. So my thought here is when I saw that, I was like, okay, kind of gets in the way. But then I realized, okay, once you add a product, it pops up here going 2 items, 3 items. So it's kind of indicating it's gone in there, right? And then if we now go to the shopping cart page, we can add a delete button. So on each item, we can add an app button. What did they actually have in the designs? It was like a delete icon. All right. Well, let's not worry about that right now. Let's just add onPressed. Remove from cart. Right. Remove. Oh, whoops. Oh yeah, we still have wish list mentioned. Yeah, we'll change those function names. Whoops. Trying to go too quick. Anyway. Okay. And then label remove. We have an icon asset, don't we? Icon we have assets dot add remove icon remove. We'll try it. And why don't
ship it?
Okay, so we have the final error is just one of code generation. Let's run that. Close all the tabs. Oh, that's a good point. Succeeded. It's good. Let's run it.
For those of you that struggle with code generation, I have a video on 2 extensions that really help with VS Code and running the builder. I will place the URL in a second.
Lovely. No more warnings. It's lovely. Dun dun dun. Okay. I forgot about this because we went on to other things. We now have a problem because decimal. Let's go back. So basically what's happened here is if I go back to our JSON, it's fine. It's a quick fix. We're using floating point numbers in here instead of strings. And that is said problem. Oh, this can't use single quotes. Double quotes because it's JSON. So let's sort that out. Everything's a string. Everyone gets a string. You have a string. You have a string. You have a string. Right. Okay, let's see. So we did quite a bit here, right? So let's do a little. Wow. Yeah, let's do a little review here, right? So on stage everything. We'll stage everything as we go. So okay, so we've updated our JSON to use strings. Our product item has decimals for the prices. That is, oh yeah, there's the next problem. It's trying to load wish list as a shopping cart because no one told me. Come on, people, you're watching me. I'm gonna have my pair programming back here. We need a different file because it's trying to load the wish list as the actual error we actually had just a minute ago was not the string one, although that would have given us an error. Actually, it might still give us an error because I didn't check earlier. So let's check now. That product item, the generate code. Oh, it does. Look, decimal from JSON. So it actually found the from JSON, the generate code generator, and started using it. That's really helpful. So it must look for a factory called from JSON. That's pretty cool. Oh, here we go. Decimal INTL is not a subtype of num or other. Okay, now I know what that is. So let's hit stop. So when we went to format the value, do you remember we looked at the guide for decimal? It said use number format decimal pan, and then it would use this decimal INTL when we went to the format. So let's go to our formatting utility here. We use currency. I'm assuming that it's correctly sort of mapped, but it looks to me like they obviously treat this something special. I mean, don't ask me how it works, but apparently it does. Is there one for currency? No. All right then. Well, if there's not one there, I don't see any reason why this would be treated any different, but I guess it is. So let's use number format decimal pattern. And see what we get. This won't give us the $sign. So what we could do is put a $sign in front right now. What? Oh, slash $sign. Oops, my bad. And then $sign again. There we go. Right. Let's try that again. So this is escaping the $sign because we don't want to use the $sign. So the slash before is going to escape character. If you want a backslash in your string, then you put 2 backslashes, right? So the escape character is basically denoting a specific operation to the next character that follows. The next character being an N, new line, /R, character return. These are all set out. These are very standardized now. They've been around for decades. But the $sign on its own in Dart means variable substitution. So how do we use a $sign in a string? Well, we have to put a backslash before it to escape that $sign. All right, so we have our cart is empty. Let's go to a product. Press add to cart. No errors, that's good. Hit back, go to cart, and there it is. That's nice. Hit remove, it disappears. Hey, it works. So that's nice. So we could add to cart that
ship
one.
Ship it.
That one. And this one. Oh, no. Back. This one.
Let marketing know we have a product. We'll sell it.
Sit. Ship it.
Yep.
So money, yeah, as you can see here, this one says 480, but this one says 6745. So our decimal pan is not formatting. It may be with the 00 that we expect, right? Because it's not using the formatter. So we need to make the determination. I have a feeling that there's actually
num decimal digits, right there.
Yeah, but is that like? Well, let's just try it. was thinking, is that fractional digits or decimal digits on the?
I'd say 2. Just do 2. Let's see what it does.
No, what I'm trying to get is that on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, right? We'll find out.
I bet that's the right-hand side. Oh, no.
Left-hand side. Oh, fractional digits is what the formatting system calls. I guess there's a reason why you want to do that. I don't know. So what we can do instead is we do what we did earlier, which is actually someone was talking about. We can say minimum fractional digits equals 2. We don't really want to customize these. You kind of want to get the one from the locale. I think we need to put another. Oh, guess what? That's funny. Do you know what's funny about this?
That's generated code?
No, we're not using format currency in it. We're using it we're using it in other places, so it might have been working. All right, let's just take this back for a second.
Yeah.
And just double check, right? Hang on, undo. Where were we? It was that. We weren't using
always make sure you're editing the code that's actually being executed when you're checking the execution.
No, it was. So that's good. So format min fractional digits equals 2. And I'm going to put another fix min here. Can we replace this? Whoop.
That should be internationalized.
Currency format.
Yeah.
Decimal. That's something can be looked into later. So save that, and then that will obviously we default to the cart page now, which is not using it. Okay, so there we go. We're using it now, so that's good. If we go back to the cart page, let's briefly make a minor modification to the layout, and then we're going to review, answer the final questions, and close down the stream. So where are we? Here, remove. Let's get padding in around this as well.
And we only have one final question. If you want more questions, please ask them immediately. And otherwise, Simon will be done and we'll be out of here.
Interesting enough, I want to show people this. If you add 2 paddings like this and you get double padding in between, if you want to get rid of that double padding, here's an example. You can say minus top padding 8. So you can actually do plus and minus. So now if I save this, it's going to be 8 all around that one and 8 all around that one, and the middle bit's overlapping, as it were, because we're taking off the 8 on the bottom half. So if I turn on the formatter, you'll see, the inspector, when it wants to load, there you'll see one of the paddings used in the top half, and the bottom half only has left, bottom, and right. Anyway, there you go. I'm just putting something to make it look a little bit better. Right, so format currency is what we want to do, and we're not doing it. So format currency around the price. There we go. In fact, what we're going to do, just briefly, because I'm waiting for some questions to come in, we'll just break this up into 2 text widgets. We're not even going to keep this. No, I don't. Okay, there you go. Right. Okay, so let's do a quick review. And I'll do a hot restart. Oh yeah, we need to change that home page. I don't want it going to, the main screen. I don't want it going to the cart page each time. Okay, cart, cool, delete, Disappears. Lovely. There's actually a slight bug there. But well, I should fix it. Let me just show you what the bug is, everyone. And let's make sure we got some products in the cart. I'm going to go show you. Well, I can only put 4 products in the cart because we only have 4. Okay. If I delete this essentials linear, ultimate 365 is going to be moved up to where that position is in the list. Now, this button that I'm pressing has the splash effect. When that widget gets removed from the screen, the splash effect is gone. But when I press remove, you'll see the splash effect continues, but on this button, when it gets moved up. Watch very closely. Did you see it? So basically what happened was the splash, when it finished, it came up on this one. Now, this is because I committed the cardinal sin. The very, very
forgot keys.
Sibling widgets of the same type have to have keys.
Keys.
So here, when we did our little for loop, look, no keys on them, right? So if I now
Emily was so right with that video of hers. Emily was so right.
So here we can say item.product.id as our key. Oh yeah, I don't have a key because it's private, so let's fix that. Super.key. We can even say required on this, right? To make sure we can never do that again on this specific one. Normally keys are optional, right? But this is only ever going to appear in a list, right? So restart. Let's make sure we get fresh. Go to our shopping, go to our products. Let's add, what's linear? That's what I deleted. Back in. Go to our shopping cart. Okay, so if I get rid of 365, what we should not see is the splash continue on this button when it moves up. And this is going to be very cool. And maybe I can slow it down, actually. Let's put slow animations and see what happens. Yeah, I mean, it didn't. It was so quick. I mean, I did speed it up, but there's no animations happening, right? So things that we could do to improve this generally is to actually do animated lists. So that's when the item gets deleted, it goes and animates closed. Or when an item gets added and you're on the screen, it animates open. These are nice, cool things that we can do. Some other cool things. Right now, when you add a product, well, I mean, you probably want to be, I feel like you probably don't want to stay on the screen. Most people want to hit back, so why not pop them, right? And then on that, then straight after that, we could then say, pop the little thing up to show where the product's gone, right? All right, so let's pop this here. Let's go through the changes. Okay, so we update our products JSON file with our strings. We updated our product model with support for future options. We haven't added those options in yet. And decimal pricing, which is great. This means, by the way, the whole point of doing decimal is that when it comes to adding up the subtotals and taxes and things in that on the shopping cart screen, we're actually going to have accurate numbers and not floating point numbers and rounding errors and things. Right, so product options, that's in there. The generate code for that. We've changed our formatter to now deal with decimals. We added a new theme to our app button for outlined, so we can support that lovely button at the top of our cart up here. We also made that support intrinsic width, and that also works when it comes to the other buttons in the app, where actually it doesn't cause any problems with the layouts. That's great. We have our top nav is now got a minimum height of 48. So now we have that should be, that does not have a minimum height of 48, does it? That, or is it the text is bigger? Hang on, let's go have a look. Let's go to our, what was the widget? Top nav bar. Why does it seem like it's a lot closer than it should be? 56. Where's that padding?
It's max height. You changed that. You changed that to max height.
Ah, there we go. Thanks.
Where we did the demo for box constraints.
This is why we do this, right? We're reviewing everything. All right, so now we can commit that. So we've got our proper min height here. That's the only thing that's changed there. We added the decimal package, which depends on rational. That's been added. All right, then we've got the product page now has the add to cart feature going on it. We'll come back to that. We now have a cart packet. We have a cart page with the basics of a shopping cart. Still lots more to do, obviously. We have a shopping cart repository based very much on the wish list repository. That should definitely be refactored out. Let's add a little note in here and say, fix me very similar to the wish list repo. A little tip for people: if you use square brackets in doc comments, you can command click on it and actually go to it. If obviously I don't have the import in here, but we can add the import. So if I add the import for backend repo wish list, right? You can see it goes yellow. So now I can command click on that and go to that class. Do this. This will save you from hunting around trying to find these things. Right. Very similar to wish list repo and should be refactored out and simplified. All right. Moving on. That's pretty much identical, apart from a couple of sort of helper functions, but it's add and remove, and it changes and stores and persists, so pretty much the same. Our cart items are based on a product and a product option. How we deliver on the other things here and how we deal with quantities, not come up to that, but we should do with that at some point. Obviously, have our generate code for that. Storage is how we're going to store that stuff and persist it. This allows us to add extra fields to our shopping cart. Maybe last time they looked at the shopping cart, other metadata, and the generate code for that. And finally, backend, which is our sort of mechanism for doing dependency injection on the application and allowing us to get to these repositories throughout the UI of the application has been updated, support, create a cart repo. All right, add cart repo. Add cart page and add start cart page and repo to support full shopping. Oops. Cart experience. Something like that. Right. Commit. Push. Dun, dun, dun. And that's it. That is all yours. If you've been watching, you can now grab that from the repo. If you want to do a takeaway, well, we've got that kind of stuff there. So the two things, options are now in there. So if you want to edit the product details page, especially for the size bit, you could try and support product options. And then if you update the layouts, you should be able to do this layout for the product item, right? If you want to give it a go. That's a nice thing. And then if you feel very confident, then you could go ahead and stick in make a little quantity adjustment widget here, and that can call out and adjust the quantity of the item in the shopping cart or delete it. Right? Cool.
Excellent. Got a couple questions, and then when we're done with that, we can move on and call it a day. First, the one that I put up a couple times, and then you got busy with other things, so I basically just hit it. Sorry, not that one. Let's do the one that refers to this one. No, yeah, this one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. All right. So this refers to the fact that in the cart model, where was my cart item? Yeah.
Yep.
So we have cart item.none. And the person's saying, why not have a constructor on cart item like so. So we can have a cart item like factory, or we can have a name constructor. We have a const name constructor none, right? That takes no parameters, right? But now, obviously, we now need to initialize all those things. So that's just another way of, for the most part, doing exactly the same thing, right?
You could use a redirecting constructor.
Right?
Right?
We can't make the const, but there you go. Oh yeah, because we named it the same. Sure, whatever. So we can do that. Now, what you've just done is made it so that every time you call cart item.none, you get a new object. Right? Now, that means you fail the identity check, right?
Yeah.
That means that every none object is not the same as each other. Unless you override the comparator for all of the fields and make sure that the equals and hash code for all the fields matches. But then I'm like, well, if I'm trying to compare none to none, why do I have to compare all the fields? Why not just go, is this the none object? Right? And that's what Sentinel objects are about. So Sentinel objects mean that there's an identity match. It's the same instance of the object always. And therefore, if you compare them, it goes, it's exactly the same instance. Of course, it's the same. It's an instantaneous check. It's literally checking an integer, right? So it's a lot more performance, especially if you need to do repetitive stuff, right? Like looping and things. That is minimal optimization, right? But it's always nice to have. It also makes your code simpler to understand and read, especially getting rid of those very squiggly unknown errors when you maybe add a field to your cart item and you forget to add it to your equals or hash code or rerun your code generator or something, right? So I would say that. Also, why allocate more memory when you don't need to? Why create lots of these objects each time you want to check for none, right? So all we're doing down below by making that final is doing exactly what you did in the constructor, because we're just calling the constructor here, but we're just storing it once, right? And we always stay with the one single instance of the variable called none throughout the entire lifetime of the app running. This does pose a different problem. And I haven't got to this, and I'll explain it right now. If we were to store product.none, product option.none, or any of the none things here at the moment in our storage JSON, then it's going to store datetime.now, quantity 0, all these fields. It's not going to store a Sentinel value of none, meaning that when the app comes back, it's going to load up and it's going to have an object that does not match our Sentinel value of none anymore. And therefore, you're going to have an empty object, like an object with no name in your shopping cart, perhaps, or an option with no name in your shopping cart. So you can you can replace that with like a couple of things, right? You can replace that with what you call it?
You can fix it in from JSON, right?
Yeah, you can fix it in from JSON, or we can do that. We still would be to do that. We can say when we do to JSON, we go, oh, is it the Sentinel value? Okay, then put a special Sentinel value in your JSON, right? One second.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. Where's Dash? Where's Dash?
I need to finish up.
Okay.
Anyway,
right.
So the right, what was I saying?
You were going to fix the JSON to and from for this card item thing. That put a special.
Yeah. So basically, when you do to JSON here, instead of doing this, we go, oh, is it the Sentinel value? Then return a very specific Sentinel value that we can then look in from JSON and go, oh, is it our Sentinel? Then replace it with our Sentinel instance.
Make it write null and then read the null.
It is that. It's like that. Yeah, exactly. Like there's very particular instances where null means nothing, and that should be the correct response, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, so but that's definitely a lot better than calling the constructor none a lot of the time and making comparisons of different things. Anyway, two different ways of doing the same things. much of a munch.
Okay.
Right. Next question.
Okay. One other tangent. But I'm wondering if procedural noise could somehow be made using a GPU in Flutter. I have a hobby project that creates a lot of noise. Probably. There's probably a package for it.
I mean, you can definitely output a 2D sampler, right? I think. No, you input 2D sampler. To be honest, I haven't looked into the recent changes in shaders. I would defer you to some of the recent talks, like at FlutterCon, about shaders. But
yeah, you could build a scene that has just random noise in it.
But the thing is, I think the point here is you can definitely build procedural noise in a shader, Perlin noise. That's definite, and you can output it on the screen in Flutter. You actually get shader objects. You can paint that to whatever you want and use it. If that's what you're trying to do, yes, you can. If you're trying to like sample the output of your shader, that's something slightly different. And I'm not sure if Flutter supports that yet or not. So rather than just displaying it, you're actually sampling it with another shader or with code or something. Hopefully that helps.
There are things that even we don't know. So apparently this is one of them. All right. That's all I got for the list. So wrap it up. Let's do it.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. Hopefully you learned something, and we all, yeah, I know. We'll get further with this application. Finally, we'll get there, hopefully, eventually, by the end of the month. So
next week's show, I get more than 5 minutes notice before I have to get up. All right, cool.
All right. All right. Catch you later. Bye, everyone. Hit the button, right?
Hit the button.